to reflect and to celebrate all that we've done this year. And mostly celebrate is what I want you to do, is celebrate all the successes, all the hard work, all the students' lives you've impacted in the past year. It's been wonderful. I was telling Becky before I jumped on this meeting, a couple weeks ago, I was meeting with the federal contacts and the federal people, and they were meeting with all the different states. And they said to them, what is the biggest challenge you have with your LEAs? What they struggle with a lot, and what you have to kind of train them to fix and redo? And they got to me and I said, nothing. They're great. They're leaders in the community. They present at national conferences. They just know exactly what they're doing. They've been doing it for many, many years. They truly care about students and families. That's their motivation. So really nothing, and they couldn't believe it. They're like, really? They know how to do this? And I'm like, yeah. And they know how to do that. Absolutely. They do it all the time. So grateful you're here today. My name is Robert Palmer. I oversee McKinney-Vento and Migrant. Thank you for those who just are coming in. We have a packed agenda today, so we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to share my screen so you can see the agenda as more people keep coming through. And there's been a couple small updates. It's mostly just different people who are presenting instead of others. But we're going to start our day in the best possible way. Our good friend and colleague Jen Harmer and her colleague Ann Clark from Davis School District are going to present on their presentation they did during the NACCE conference, which I'm so excited to hear about. What an honor for Jen, and what a great way to represent our state. After that, at 10 o'clock, at 9:30, we have Lorianne Thorup. She's the executive director about Prevent Child Abuse Utah. Following her, we have Casey Hutton, the Department of Health and Human Services. Then we are going to go into Liz Marie Santiago Orterio and Heidi Patterson from Domestic Violence Coalition. We then have Nicole Basante and Debbie Williamson of the Office of Vital Records and Student Access to Birth Records. We then have our good friend, and I know she's presented before, and she just does a fabulous job, Haley Hernandez and Teresa Sanchez from Maternal Mental Health Support for the next half hour from 11:30 to 12. And then from 12 to 12:30, this is one of the changes on the agenda. We have Elliot Williams and now Karen Rice, which is great. Karen does a meeting monthly with me and the rest of the McKinney-Vento people and the nation. So they're from Schoolhouse Connection, and our good friend Mike Hardman connected us with them. So they're going to be presenting from 12 to 12:30. And then from 12:30 to 12:40, Alyssa Palmer, no relation to me, reached out, and she has a recording that she has recorded for us that we'll try to play and see if we can get the tech issues out. I shouldn't have any problems. If it is, we'll end 10 minutes early and we'll just email out that recording. So as we let in a couple more people, Becky, do you mind giving Jen Harmer sharing access, presenting access? And
she should be set up already. I made her a presenter a few moments ago.
You are wonderful. So Jen Harmer, she's at Davis School District, one of the very best in the entire nation. Just wonderful. So grateful Jen would be here and agree to share her presentation with us. So Jen, I'm going to go ahead and turn the time over to you.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen real quick. All right, can you guys see that okay?
Yes, it looks perfect. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay, our sessions at NACCE were about an hour and 15 minutes long, so we're going to go through this really quickly. We've cut a few things out. Some of the stuff you guys have already heard me talk about, so I'm going to go fast and furious with this. So you guys all know me. My name is Jen Harmer. I am the McKinney-Vento coordinator for Davis School District. Just to give you a couple of statistics before I turn it over to Ann. Davis School District has 92 schools. We're getting ready to open, I think it's just one more elementary school. We have over 70,000 students enrolled in our district. 1,400 of our students have been approved for McKinney-Vento this school year, with just a little over 1,200 families that we serve on a regular basis. So Ann, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you to introduce yourself.
Okay. So I'm Ann Clark, and I'm the Teen Living Center liaison for Davis School District. Besides previous, I was a family resource facilitator, and before that, a school counselor. So I would. I know I'm speaking to the experts in this room, so we hope to just give you some ideas of what we've been doing in our district, and perhaps you can take something away from it. One of the main things in our district is we provide a wraparound service framework, which has been really integral in meeting the needs of our students. And our student family resource department also is very helpful because they have therapists there at the district level that can meet with our students, but then we also have therapists that are also embedded within some of our schools. And that's been a great resource for our students that are experiencing homelessness. And then our teen centers, of course, in meeting those basic needs and providing some academic support, as well as, some of those other necessities like getting their clothes washed and those things. And then the food pantries within those, and not only help our students, but also can help the communities around them. One piece that's been really helpful with the Teen Living Center and beyond is our community partners. Davis Behavioral Health has been fabulous in helping our students out with therapy, longer term therapy, and as well as mental health evaluations. They also have been generous enough to donate one of their houses in the county. They own several homes within the county that they do case management out of, but one of the homes they have donated for our students and families, and we help identify a family that we think could benefit from being in the home short term so that they are able to save up. They have some of those barriers of being in a hotel, so they can't get into a more permanent housing situation, or debt, or an eviction that they need to pay off. This provides kind of that space. So the property manager there does set the rent and also makes the determination if he thinks the family we've identified is a good fit. And then they're able to stay in there for pretty low rent, and then save up to get into something more permanent, which they get about 3 months. And I believe we've had, correct me if I'm wrong, Jen, is about 5 families that have gone through there this year?
Yeah, 5 families, and we're working on our 6th families right now.
Yeah, so so that's been really helpful for our families. And then another piece that I just wanted to highlight is our juvenile receiving center has also been helpful with not only the Teen Living Center when we have a student who does not have a place to stay. They've kind of helped bridge that gap before getting into a shelter or the Teen Living Center. They also just been really helpful when families just need a break and kind of some resources. And then lastly, our school resource officers have also been really important. And now I'm going to let Jen go on to the McKinney-Vento piece.
So like a lot of you, you guys are all offering these same things that we have up here. I'm going to talk about our FAFSA a little bit later. And then one thing that I wanted to touch base on here is that we do have a housing grant through an anonymous donor. They donated $57,000 to Davis School District this year to help our McKinney-Vento families get out of homelessness. The nice part of having this anonymous private donor is that we don't have to follow the HUD criteria that a lot of our resources within the county have to follow. So we've been able to help 30 families, and it's roughly about 120 individuals get out of homelessness. And the great thing is with our application process, we are making sure that these families are set up to continue the stable housing, and we're not just putting them in housing that's going to last for 1 month and have an eviction on the record. So that's been a really helpful resource for us. Let's see, my computer's working a little bit slow. Like many of you that have teen centers, we also have teen centers. We have them in all of our high schools. We have 2 alternative schools that we also have teen centers in. And then all of our junior highs have like a room that they run services out of. Our junior highs don't have the laundry and the shower facilities, but they still have a person in there running services, helping with food and different referrals out to the community. And all of our new builds, from what I have been told, all schools that are going to be new builds coming into Davis County will have some form of an area where students and families can shower and do laundry and have access to food resources. And the teen centers are also where my team of success coaches work out of. We work with the students on tutoring. We help track grades. We help break down the mountain of homework they have or the makeup credit that they need to work on. We help them with FAFSA and scholarships, college selection. A lot of times we set up tours of our local tech school so that the kids can go and explore the programs that they have there. And all of these kids are identified through McKinney-Vento and then selected with our success coaches and our teen center coordinators. So for last school year in our teen centers, over 10,000 meals were provided through our pantry packs and then our food pantries that are in the teen centers. Over 9,000 families were served. There was over 2,000 tutoring sessions, and we saw a lot of improved attendance and a rise in the GPA. This data is really important just for me to disclose that this was on a whole. This is all families, not just McKinney-Ventos. So that is just a little bit of the data from last year. Anne, would you like to go ahead and take this one?
Yeah. So this is the Teen Living Center. A shot of it here. And while our teen centers were providing that critical support, we also saw a growing need for our students who were experiencing homelessness to have a stable place to live. And so this is where the Teen Living Center came about to kind of bridge that gap. It is a public-private partnership, and it's a 16-bed facility that provides safe and stable housing for unaccompanied youth. While the physical needs are met, we also try to provide those wraparound services at the school, on the school side, to help meet those students' academic and personal needs, so that when they do move on from the Teen Living Center, they have a plan and are stable. It is a high barrier center. They do need guardian permission, and they need to maintain school attendance and achieve passing grades. They are also expected to be drug-free. Sometimes students, however, do come in there with a drug like THC in their system, and they are expected to then commit to being drug-free, and then they are tested randomly from there to make sure that that is indeed happening. So we have identified we have come up with some processes and procedures for the Teen Living Center, and just how also we help our students who are experiencing homelessness. So first, usually the student, expresses the need and self-identifies, and that's usually, with a teen center coordinator or a success coordinator, school counselor, or administrator. And from there, they do kind of I talk to that student about what is going on and give them some options. And if the TLC is something that seems like it would be a good fit and a student would like to try to live there, then a consultation form is completed and sent over to me. From there, I go and meet with the student and tell them more about the center and see if they still would like to go forward with it, and also see if they're a good fit. From there, I seek out parent guardian permission and talk to them, the parent or guardian, about the center and what the goals and expectations are. If I am able to get permission, then we all meet. There's a team of us that meet to kind of discuss the student and their needs and how we can best support them from the district side, and if this is the best fit or if we should be looking at other service providers. From there, if we are all in agreement that yes, we think this could be a possible fit, I also I reach out to our Davis Behavioral Health, and they provide a mental health evaluation that is then they send directly to the Teen Living Center. We send over also some of our information to the Teen Living Center, like grades and where they are and credits and what needs to be made up. And the Teen Living Center is ultimately the one who makes the decision on whether they think they're a good fit. And that is kind of the processes we have developed from going through this. This is our second year. I did not.
And I got those two that she just sent over that were her file.
What's that? Hello? What?
It's okay. I think it was just somebody talking to.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. So just wanted to give a little piece about how we got here. There was our previous foundation director was the key in raising the funds for the Teen Living Center, and so she sought out those donors and also engaged stakeholders. And from there, after the funding was raised to build, then she also sought out a partnership with Switchpoint, who runs and manages the program. And that's how we kind of began. And that sounds simpler than it was, but there was a lot of work to get that far. But it was essentially our foundation director who was a go-getter in getting those private funds to get this built. Some of the impact of the Teen Living Center, these from last year, we've served over 21 students. Last year, 5 of our students graduated, 3 are still attending college, and 1 wanted to begin pilot school. And then we have 1 who is also on a religious mission. Currently at the Teen Living Center, we have 5 who are on track to graduate this year. And we're working very hard to firm up those plans for when they do graduate and move on from the Teen Living Center.
Sorry, Ann.
That's okay. And so yeah, so hopefully this means, changes, makes an impact on these students' lives so that we can change the trajectory of their life. And I'm going to turn it over to Jen now.
Okay, in our last meeting, I talked about this a little bit and passed around copies of it. This is something that I was actually able to use some information from Schoolhouse Connection to put this letter together. What we see a lot with our unaccompanied minors is people are afraid to help them, to let them spend the night, to help with the showers and the food and everything in we have our runaway laws and stuff, and it kind of contradicts some of the McKinney-Vento things. And so anyway, Schoolhouse Connection was super helpful in putting this letter together just based off of information that they have on their website. And so I was able to just copy and paste the information for students to have this letter so that they can walk into a doctor's office and get medical care, so that they can seek out some mental help. And if they are looking for some place to stay where it is safe and they are not comfortable in disclosing what, guardians' information, if they're fearful for their own safety, then this letter just kind of states the state code and can hopefully make the providers feel a little bit better to help these kids. On the back of this letter, I do put the definitions as defined under McKinney-Vento to just clear up some of the misinformation that is sometimes circulating. This is our FAFSA letter, and I know that with FAFSA, they've updated it, and really only our unaccompanied minors are marking that they're homeless. But there are those special circumstances where some families feel like they still want to apply for FAFSA under special circumstances, and they request this letter. And so that is why I have still left the 3 options on there. We typically are only marking the top one for our unaccompanied minors unless parents or students have requested this letter for a special circumstance. We do put, just their basic information on there, but nothing that is really pertains to their education here at Davis School District. And then on the back of this, we also have the definitions on there because previously some of our universities weren't as involved with our homeless students, and so they didn't really understand what it meant. But with the new FAFSA out there, hopefully our universities are getting a little bit more involved in determining our McKinney-Vento students while they're at the universities. Moving on to this next one, I've talked about in a lot of our state meetings, our success coaches, because I just love this group of people so much. They are amazing. And they have been truly vital in helping our students get to graduation. A lot of people talk about ending homelessness, and that's the goal. We got to end homelessness, and they have all these ideas on what's going to work. But I feel like homelessness is going to end when we start with our youth. We've got to change their mindset. We've got to help them change their path, and we've got to build them up to know that they can graduate high school and they can go on to college. And so with our art funds a couple years ago, we started out with 4 individuals working with our high school students to get them to graduation. Davis School District's graduation rate is at about a 93 or 94%. And our first year having our 4 success coaches out at our high schools, we had 100% graduation rate for our students that were participating in the program. A lot of our students that are chronically absent, they're just never coming to school. Or some of our students were like, yeah, I don't want to meet with you. I don't want your help. We honor that. We don't force them to be part of this, but we do offer this program to all of our McKinney-Vento students. And so for all of the students that participated that first year, we got to 100%. I don't know what the rest of you guys use in your districts for credit recovery, but we use a program called Edgenuity, and each course is worth a quarter credit. And our first year, we had a boy going into his senior year, and he was behind essentially 18 credits. So he needed to get 10 credits of recovery and then the 8 credits his senior year. And our amazing success coach helped him tackle that. And they worked literally right up to the night before graduation. We got special permission to allow this student that had bounced around his entire life to work right up to the night before, and he finished. He did all 8 classes and 40 Edgenuity classes to get caught up for graduation. And if we didn't have somebody sitting there with him, our sweet success coach was sitting there till like 5 o'clock at night, the night before graduation at the school, just encouraging him, like, you've got this, you can do it, like, what's next? And so this program has just really worked. We had not fallen below 96% of graduation for our kids that are in this program. I have a couple that I like to tell stories about. I know we're about out of time, but Angela is just, she's really good to motivate. And she had a student that was so down on herself, and her mom was like, you're never going to graduate. You're never going to amount to anything. And none of her older siblings graduated. And Angela got a hold of her and was like, you can do this. You are going to graduate. And she encouraged this girl right up to the end. And this girl graduated, and she's in college. And she proved to her mom she could graduate and she could go to college, and she had what it took. And this is the Wilhelms, and they are just, he's a gentle giant, and she's so consistently in the hallways motivating the kids to be where they need to be. And this is the cute Baumans, and they go above and beyond, and they go to the kids' concerts and their opening nights of plays, and they go to the baseball games, and they go and dine at the restaurants where the kids are the cooks, making sure to tip the cook. And they all go above and beyond during school hours and after school hours to provide a support for these students and an accountability in a positive way that these kids aren't traditionally used to. Michelle and Katie love to celebrate the kids for every small little thing. They have dance parties for every little thing that they can. And they're just an amazing group of people that have helped these kids see the potential in themselves and give them hope. So I'm just gonna probably end there so we don't go over time. This is some of the challenges we come across. You know, we all have challenges constantly that we're pivoting and, you know, figuring out how do we remove these barriers. So I know we're all every day fighting for these kids, but if you guys want to reach out to us about anything that we've talked about, feel free to reach out. I think that's the end of my slideshow, Robert. So I don't know if you want to, let's see, we've got like 3 minutes. I don't know if you want to open up for questions or just move right into the next.
Jen, thank you, Anne, thank you. Wow, what a wonderful program you guys are running and up in Davis School District. I love the academic success coaches. What a fantastic idea. And Jen and Anne, I love to hear your passion and your commitment to these students and their families and just how well you know your community. That's great. Yeah, I would love if you're willing to field some questions, Jen and Anne, that would be great. If you guys have any questions for Jen or for Anne or for Jen and Anne, please unmute yourself and feel free to just go ahead and ask your questions. We'll give that a couple minutes here. Thank you so much.
I will add, I know it's not a question, but of our success coaches, we only have 5 paid staff. 10 of our success coaches are volunteers. So we've really turned out to our community looking for volunteers because we don't have funding to support a program like this.
That's incredible. That is so great to hear. Wow, what fantastic work you guys are doing. Any other questions before we move on? Okay, thank you, Jen. Thank you, Anne. Wow, that was such a great way to start off our day. Let me just share our agenda again real quick. We've had a lot of people come into the meeting a little bit late, and that's totally great. Just to reset a little bit, my name is Robert Palmer. I am the McKinney-Vento coordinator and my education director at the Utah State Board of Education. Grateful to be here today with all of you. This is our spring meeting, and we're going to break the record attendance today because we have joined us for the first time charter school liaisons as well, which is so exciting to have them here. We've been working with the charter school directors, presenting at their charter school director meeting, trying to get them to become involved with the McKinney-Vento liaisons, which is, as you guys know, a requirement regardless of subgrant status. Grateful for all of you to be here today. We just heard from Jen Harmer, one of our very best and brightest up at Davis School District. And now we're going to move on to Lorianne Thorup, who is the executive director from Prevent Child Abuse Utah. And this is such an important topic, obviously, and really grateful that Lorianne will be here today. So Becky, can you please give Lorianne presenting status if you haven't already? And with that, I'll turn the time over to Lorianne. Lorianne, thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, it's my absolute pleasure. Thank you guys for having me. I love what you're doing in McKinney-Vento. And just a little bit of my background before we get started, so you know who I am. I'm a fan of the State Board of Education. I worked for the State Board of Education for many, many years in the youth and custody programs and in special ed in dispute resolution. And then I was also appointed to the state school board by Governor Herbert. So I feel like anytime I get to talk to folks who are in education, it feels like home. So thanks for having me today. And I'm thrilled to talk to you about this topic. How can we work together to prevent child abuse? So let's get into this, shall we? Can we see my presentation?
Yes, it looks beautiful. Thank you.
Right. Thank you. So I just want, this is the timing of your meeting, I'm sure was completely coincidental, but it is actually Child Abuse Prevention Month. And for, 2 more days. So I'm really grateful to talk to you about this because I fully 100% believe that child abuse is not inevitable. It is preventable. And we can do this together. I really, really believe that. I don't think that, my goal is not to reduce child abuse, it's to eradicate it. I really, really feel like this is possible. So let's talk about some of what's going on in the state, some of what is working, and I'll try to keep it brief because I can go on for days, but we'll just learn together. I want to give you just a little bit of an overview of what the prevention science shows and how we go about the work that we do. So there are 3 levels of prevention, is what we call it. So primary prevention is available to all. So it's kind of like what I'm doing right now, talking to you about prevention, is let's raise awareness about child abuse. Let's talk about what's going on in Utah. And anyone can hear this presentation from me, right? You don't have to be an at-risk family or have abuse already happening in order to participate in the intervention, is what we'll call that, right? So what we do to educate the community and just raise awareness, and Child Abuse Prevention Month, all of that is considered primary prevention. And then we also, then we move into secondary prevention, and that's where we're targeting interventions to families who may be more at risk for experiencing child maltreatment. Okay, so that is, and I'm guessing some of this resonates with you working with families experiencing homelessness. So all of your families would be considered secondary prevention for us, right? Because anytime that a family, what we know about families is that when they are experiencing stressful things and when they are unable to provide what we call, what our jargon is concrete supports in times of need, that's housing, right? So when families experience these things, we see higher incidence of child abuse neglect. So we target interventions specifically to families in those circumstances. That's considered secondary intervention. So there may be other risk factors like foster care or substance use, those kind of things, right? Would considered anything that we do for families. Maybe we're targeting Title I schools. So that's secondary prevention. Then tertiary prevention is really about families where harm has already occurred. It's still prevention to ensure that that harm doesn't happen again, right? So we're intervening where harm has already happened. We're providing services in connection with child protective services to make sure that families do not move further into the system and that harm doesn't happen in those cases again. So those are just a little bit of our levels so that you can have an overview of what we're talking about with prevention. And each one of the programs that we run at Prevent Child Abuse Utah, we try to make sure that we're hitting each of these levels. So sometimes you might wonder, okay, is this effective? Is this working? Well, yes, it is. And we'll go through that. I want to give you just a little bit. I'm guessing that most of you have heard of adverse childhood experiences. When you're not on camera, I can't totally see, but I'm just going to make an assumption that you understand what that is, that adverse childhood experiences equal most of the time some very adverse adult experiences with healthcare outcomes, substance use, suicidality, all the sort of negative societal ills. Folks who have experienced trauma, neglect, and abuse in childhood are more likely to experience those things as adults. So it's very important that we are looking to prevent and intervene before harm happens, because we want to keep people safe from these type of things, from ACEs. But the good news, the fantastic news, is if you may not have heard of positive childhood experiences. And this is where I think you guys can really impact kids for good. And that's what we heard in the first presentation. So there has been some really strong research, and it just tickles me so much. I'm so thrilled about this, that shows that the presence of positive childhood experiences is more predictive of outcomes than the absence of adverse childhood experiences. Let me say that again. So if a child has positive childhood experiences, it is more likely that they'll have positive outcomes in adulthood than it is likely that someone experiencing harm in childhood will have negative outcomes. That is fantastic news. And that's where we can do some work together, right? So let's go through these. Positive childhood experiences, a child identifies that they have the ability to talk with their family about feelings. Okay, we can do something with that, right? They felt that experience that family is supportive in difficult times. Sometimes our students may not have that, right? If they're needing support outside of their family, that might be one where they aren't experiencing that positive childhood experience. They have enjoyment and participation in community traditions. This is really important, and I think a key role that schools play in the community is providing some of these, opportunities for family to gather together, to celebrate their cultural traditions, and to really just gather as a community. So number 4 is a feeling of belonging in high school. That is so critical and so key, and something I think that you can really impact. Do kids feel connected to, have they found their people in high school? Do they feel ownership? Do they feel owned, right? They feel a sense of belonging. 5, do they have that feeling of belonging, of being supported by friends? And then, do they have at least 2 non-parent adults who genuinely care about them? And I would push that to, I think that this is important because I worked for so long with kids who are in foster care and juvenile justice. Often what I would see is people genuinely do care, but they're all paid to do so. Do kids have at least 2 non-parent adults who are not paid to care about them? Now, that doesn't mean educators. I think genuinely that educators can be, and education professionals in general, I think that kids see particular care for individuals as specialized and not sort of as the same thing as a caseworker. Well, of course you care about me, but you have to, and you're going to leave in a minute, right? This is different. Teachers, I think, and counselors and school social workers and all of you can play a role here. And I think especially some of those volunteers and folks that you were talking about in the other presentation. So, and number 7, feeling safe and protected by an adult at home. So you can see automatically, I think, some of the things where you may not be able to impact and have a difference or make a difference, but you can see some areas where you could. So I wanted to fill you with a lot of hope because number 1, prevention is possible. And number 2, you can do something. So now I want to talk about a little bit about what we do and have you imagine how we can work together. So I'll talk mostly about 2 programs that we have. We have more than this, but we do what's called home visiting. If you've ever heard of that, I'll get into the weeds on that with you. And we also do education programs in schools and for educators. Some of you may have already gone through our course. So we'll talk a little bit more about each of those, okay? And I'll tell you what areas of the state we're in so that we can partner really closely. So what is working to prevent child abuse and neglect is home visiting. It is, and not just, it has incredible research that shows that home visiting prevents child maltreatment and keeps kids safe, but it also impacts every other negative societal concern. Home visiting decreases substance use. Home visiting decreases suicidality. Home visiting increases, and then it has all these positive things, like it increases literacy, it increases kindergarten readiness, it increases the attachment between parents and children. It impacts maternal mental health positively. So there's just really an incredible amount of research that shows home visiting is really working. So let me tell you what it is. It's let's go back here. So this is, families are paired with a professional, a child development professional who can come into their home or meet them where they are. Now, I want to say to you, especially, we can serve all of your families. It does not matter if they are in a home. We can provide visits in our offices. We have home visiting spaces set up so that we can work with them on transportation. We can meet with them in shelters. We can meet with them when they're couch surfing or whatever the situation is for them. If they're eligible for the program, we can meet them where they are. And this is what I love about it too, because it's like bringing parenting classes to you instead of taking you out of the home and putting you in a classroom. And then when you get back home and you're in the situation with parenting, you can no longer remember what you learned. Maybe that's just me. So this is really like, these are home visitors, work with families one-on-one, and the magic of it is that they encourage parents. Every parent, I have not met one yet who has just felt really good about their parenting. I'm doing fine. I need no help, right? But there is a stigma in the state of Utah that says I should be able to parent on my own. I don't know why we do this to ourselves, actually, because it's the hardest job that there is. We have zero training going in. Every one of us, I think, that has been a parent has experienced that moment, either when it's you come home from the hospital and you have the kiddos and you're like, why are they letting me leave? I don't know what I'm doing, right? So there's not a handbook. Home visiting is the handbook. So we work with families. We can work with families from the time that they know that they're expecting until the child is 9 years old. We don't generally as much or as little as the family wants us to. Okay, so we have several different programs so that will mean for you with families that you're serving, you may identify someone because you have someone in elementary school that's in, 5th grade that you think needs this service. Well, they're not technically eligible, but if they have a younger sibling who is under the age of 9, they are eligible. And our home visitors are trained on more than one home visiting model so that they can really meet the needs of the family, whatever those needs are. So it's really fantastic. So for example, if we're in a home and we're saying, or at a park, and mom is saying to us, it's not my 3-year-old. I got to figure out this stuff with the teenager before I can work on this stuff with the 3-year-old. We can help meet those needs, even if we call the target child is not the one that needs the intervention, right? Once we're in the home with the target child, we can serve the whole family. So that's something to keep in mind. I know because you might be thinking, well, that's a relatively small amount of folks on my, that I'm thinking about that would be eligible for this. It may be more than you think. So just wanted to give you some brief information about maternal mental health, and we'll hear about this later. I'm really excited to hear that presentation about maternal mental health, because I will say in Utah, we are not doing well. And I think it is partially because of when I say that there's a stigma in Utah, I didn't make that up. That was a survey that we did to find out about really, we were wanting to find out about corporal punishment, spanking, and what people thought about spanking in Utah. And as a side note, we discovered that parents really do, in Utah specifically, more than in other states, say that they should know how to parent without help, and that it is embarrassing to have to ask for help. So we can see why maternal mental health outcomes are so poor in the state where that's the mentality. So, but this is a program that I think really helps moms, especially in that postpartum period, or in a time that they might really, really desperately need the help. We are right next to them in the trenches with them, and it really impacts positively maternal mental health. Okay, we do screenings with the kids, we do screenings with the parents, we do so much to make sure that we are connecting kids to special ed, to all the services that you guys are aware of, right? So, and we are doing things we bring the families together monthly so that they're making friends with families in similar situations to them. We're providing all of these activities so that they are really feeling strengthened in their community. We're trying to recruit their neighbors so that we can connect them, right? And then we really try to make sure that everyone is leaving with a connection to another service outside of us or with us. So I talked about this already. It decreases ACEs, increases protective factors. It's just really fantastic. Okay, we'll skip this. So our referral, you can just go to our website, pcautah.org, and the referral form is right here. That's all you have to say. You just have to say city where they live, or where we can find them, and if they have children in the home and what ages they are. That's pretty much it. A phone number, a name, we can track them down, and we can work together on this. Okay. So the other program I want to quickly talk to you about is our education program. You may be familiar with this if you've been in the schools, but we are doing prevention education for students in classrooms, but we're also doing prevention education for adults. So all education professionals are required to take child abuse prevention training. So we offer an online course on our website that educators can take, and it's really phenomenal. And I would encourage you to check that out and make sure that if you're required to take this training, you're doing so. I think it's every 3 years that the training is required. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the presentations that we do in the schools. So with elementary students, we do presentations across the state. This is anywhere in the state. You can have us come and do these presentations to kids. And what we're teaching them is how to recognize, resist, and report child abuse. And what we're seeing already, we've been doing this now for over 40 years in the state of Utah. And but this year is the first year that the state has allocated funding to support this. So we're able to do it on a much bigger scale because we have the contract to provide the in-person presentations in schools. We're also available to train anyone in the school who would like to deliver the content. So if schools are like, well, we'd really like our school counselors to be the ones delivering this, cool. We will train them on our content. They can take it in, and it's fantastic. So we had this story we've had 2 stories in this is just last month, that 2 stories broke down in Washington County and I believe Ogden. So where as a direct result of our presentations, 2 of the kids came forward and said, this is happening to me. I'm experiencing child sexual abuse. I didn't know that that's what it was until they told me in this presentation. But yes, this is happening to me. And their school counselors were able to connect them with resources, call Child Protective Services. And specifically the case in Washington County, there are many, many victims that have been discovered as a result of this one disclosure. So this is the good that we're doing here. Kids, listen, 91% of the time that a child is being harmed, it's by someone they know and trust. That's why it's so damaging, right? Long term, you can see why that would be the case, but also they don't have the vocabulary and no one's really talking to them about what abuse is. So they don't know. The average age of disclosure, I think, is 42. Did you know that? So we have so many kids who may be experiencing this and they just don't have the words to say what's going on, right? And they don't understand that it shouldn't be happening and that it's okay to talk to someone. So let me give you an example. I was in a 5th grade class and we were talking about physical abuse. In these presentations, we talk about all the forms of child abuse and neglect and trafficking. So we talked to them about all of those, and there was a 5th grade boy who raised his hand during physical abuse, and he said, well, but if you've done something really bad, then it's okay, right? Or what about if your mom is really mad? Like if your mom is really mad, it's okay for her to hit you. This is the kind of thing, right? Like this is a 5th grade boy who you would think would understand that he has a right to be safe, but we can't make those assumptions. We do not know what they don't know. So we want to come in and give them, and a lot of our presentation is focused on identifying 5 people that they can talk to, that they can trust. And we want to make it a deep bench, right? Because mom and dad and grandma, and then you got to think a little bit harder, right? So we try to get them to get a deep bench of people, and then we tell them in the presentation, tell and keep telling until you get help, until it stops. And those are critical, I think, skills to teach kids to impact tertiary prevention, right? And primary prevention. It's primary prevention because all the kids get it. So that when or if something were to happen in the future, they know what to do. And we talked to them a lot about just listening to the butterflies in their stomach when something isn't right, when it isn't okay. Before anything happens, they should be talking to a grown-up about it. That's the opportunity we have to intervene, right? We can intervene before something happens if kids know to talk to someone. And we say all the time too, this I think is just a really good example to connect the feeling for them. We talk to them if they have elementary students, the younger ones, we'll talk to them, hey, if you have a potty accident at school, what are you going to do? Can you take care of that by yourself? Can you pretend that it isn't happening? Even though it's embarrassing, you have to talk to someone in order to get help. And this is the same thing, right? You have to talk to someone. So let's figure out who you can talk to and let's start talking. So I think making those connections for them is really, really helpful. Okay, I talked about this already. This is our Boundary Town. This is our online prevention education resource. And it gives we just have scenarios that we go through and it's really awesome. Okay, so I want to give you quickly, I'm sorry, I know I'm talking fast, but there's some research that's just coming out that is really, I think, exciting and a little bit damning, unfortunately. So there's some research that shows that Big Brothers, Big Sisters, Scouts, etc., have really adopted policies and have required training for their staff in a way that has significantly reduced incidents of child sexual abuse in their environments. On the other hand, educators and education systems have not done the same. And over the same period of time, incidents of child sexual abuse in those settings have gone up. So these are things that we really care about. Prevention education really does make a difference. It makes a difference for kids and it makes a difference for adults. Something that we do in our adult training is talk about how to intervene when we see something that another adult is doing that isn't appropriate, right? Those are tricky things. Those are hard conversations to have. We want you to be equipped to be able to have them. So that's part of our education. We also are doing education for parents. We're happy to do parent nights and give parents all the resources they need to talk to their kids and to create family safety plans and make sure their kids are safe. And I want to tell you, I think this is so incredible that when kids receive this kind of prevention education in schools, incidents of abuse are cut in half. That is something I can work with. Now, it's not all the way to eradicate, but I'll take it. Okay, so here's us. You can schedule a school presentation. It's super easy. Generally speaking, we work with the school counselors at the school to schedule these, but anyone you can just go to your school counselor and say, hey, have you had this prevention education? If not, sign up here. All of this is available on our website. So you guys are seeing families, you're seeing students, you are in the trenches with them. And we would love to partner with you both with referrals for our home visiting and to connect with classrooms for our school presentations. So, and also for you. Sorry, was that someone just unmuted on accident? Okay, I left 3 whole minutes for questions.
Lorianne, thank you so much. That was an incredibly important presentation. So much useful information. I did not know the 42-year-old statistic. That terrifies me as my wife is 40 years old and I can't imagine it would take 2 more years for her to be able to come forward if something had happened to her. Just a wonderful program, so very vital and important to hear. At the beginning of the year, our Assistant Superintendent, Dr. Leah Voorhees, who's just an amazing human being, said to all of us, the role of an adult is to protect children. And that's something I love to hear. We're all child advocates, and I love hearing that it's our job to protect these little ones. So please, if you have any questions for Lorianne, go ahead and feel free to unmute. Just a reminder to please keep yourself muted during the presentations. Teams is a little bit finicky with the sound, so that's why we just ask you to mute. But right now, if you have a question for Lorianne, please feel free to unmute. Thank you again, Lorianne.
So it looks like Holly, you're asking, I'm assuming you're talking about home visiting. How would you offer the resource in a conversation? I really think that it's as simple as saying, I know of a resource that can help in an ongoing supportive way and sort of work with you we on average work with families for a minimum of 2 years. So, and we can follow them in and out of homelessness. That is not a deal breaker for us. So I think it's really just a matter of saying, just like you would bring up any other resource, like a food bank, you would just say, hey, I know of this program. I think that you would really enjoy it. They provide resources for parents of young kids. And I think that, and it's free, right? So I think that it's something that sells itself, but also if you just get us a phone number, we will reach out and we're really good at helping them understand what the resource is. I hope that's helpful.
have a question.
Shauna, go ahead and unmute. That's
Oh,
perfect.
Thank you. So I am at a small charter. I'm specifically at the high school, so I've got 9 through 12, but we have our sister school across the street, which is a K through 8. They don't have their own school counselor. So I would love for you guys to go and present to them and educate the littles. My only worry is that there isn't anyone specifically to take, like when they're starting to report and realize that, hey, I need to talk to somebody about this, they don't have someone that, dedicated to counseling, right? So how would we make sure that they are, like, their needs are met and they're able to report without being overwhelmed?
So that's okay. That's a good question. And I will say this. We require that the teachers remain in the classroom during the presentations. And often when we're talking to the kids about the 5 people they can trust, we say, what about teacher? Right? So we'll try to point them. And if there is a school counselor, we have them come with us into the classroom. If there isn't, that's okay. If any administrator would like to sort of take that role on and be in the classrooms with us, we would love that. We do try to point to in-school resources for them. Keep in mind this, a lot of students will disclose right to us. And some will take a few days and then they'll disclose, right? But I think as long as we are able to connect them to someone they can trust in the school, they don't need specialized training to be able to call Child Protective Services, right? It's really, if you or any adult in the state suspects child abuse, you're obligated to call Child Protective Services, and they will walk you through exactly what they need in order to open a case or not open a case, and they'll let you know on the call if they're going to open a case. So it's really straightforward, and it doesn't require specialized counselor training to be able to support kids when they're disclosing.
So can I give your information to the principal at our academy, or like what would be the best way to connect you with them?
Yeah, absolutely. That is a super easy way to go. We also on our webpage, pcautah.org, and then you go to programs and it's school presentations and it's book a presentation. So it's just that simple. And then they'll call right away to get it scheduled.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Awesome. Thank you, Lorianne. Sir, appreciate you and all your wonderful work you're doing to help these students in Utah. It's absolutely amazing. Thank you so very much. Okay. I felt I neglected to mention that I am grateful today to have in attendance my wonderful colleague and dear friend, Dr. Max Lang. Max oversaw this program for many, many years and was incredibly successful at it. And I feel so grateful that he'd be here. He has the busiest schedule of anyone I know, but thank you, Max, for being here with us today. Next up, we have Casey Hutton from the Department of Health and Human Services. And I was fortunate enough to touch base with Casey a few weeks ago, and we had a short meeting together. And Casey gets to work with all of my former colleagues. She works with Camille Sheik, who used to oversee the 21st Century program at the Utah State Board of Education, who is just a dear friend and wonderful colleague, as well as Sharon Tillman Black, who I used to collaborate with as well. So, Becky, if you could please give Casey Hutton presenter mode, and then we'll go ahead and turn the time over to Casey once she is ready to go. Casey, thank you for being here. Welcome. We're grateful to have you here today.
Hi, thanks for having me. I don't have a presentation. I just have me. So nothing to present, but hopefully that's okay. So my name is Casey Hutton, and I work at the Department of Health and Human Services. And I think later in the schedule, you have a couple more presentations from folks in our department. I'm here specifically because I get to work in our executive director's office. And our department oversees a lot of different programs. So Lorianne mentioned Child Protective Services. That's in the Department of Health and Human Services. And one of the things that we started working on a couple of years ago is sort of what is our responsibility, given all of the programming that we have, to kind of positively impact our clients who might be experiencing housing instability. So I know a lot of cameras are off, and I know people might be doing slight other things, and I'm less familiar with Teams, but there is like that little react icon with the emojis. And if there's like a thumbs up, thumbs down in there, I'm just wondering if people can kind of give me a little bit of a taste of how familiar they are with our department. Like, do you know what the Department of Health and Human Services includes, does, have kind of an idea? Or if you're like, I don't know, it sounds like a fairly generic state agency, you can do the thumbs down. We'll give you guys a couple minutes to maybe find those.
There's only positive things that you can put in there. There's no thumbs down.
What? Okay, neat. Have the thumbs down. Okay, that's good to know. Yeah, I don't use Teams all the time. Okay. Well, someone jump in and interrupt if I go into too much detail where you're like, yeah, we're so familiar, we already know this. But I'm assuming, just because it is such a big agency, that maybe there's some pieces that folks don't necessarily realize is under this umbrella of the Department of Health and Human Services. So some things that might kind of impact this group, or you might bump into in your work, we have the Division of Juvenile Justice and Youth Services is part of Department of Health and Human Services. Division of Child and Family Services, which has CPS, is part of our department. We have Medicaid, not eligibility. Interestingly, that's done in the Department of Workforce Services, but as far as policy and program manuals, et cetera, Medicaid is part of Department of Health and Human Services. You have a couple of people, I think, presenting after this. So we have vital statistics and maternal health. We have, I'm trying to think of some of the other groups who might touch on to work that you do. Make sure I don't miss anyone. We also just have like the big, huge public health branch, which does a lot of data collection. They do the SHARP survey. So on kind of mental health and suicide, we have suicide prevention. We have the Office of Substance Use and Mental Health, which is in our department. So we touch like a huge swath of programming. And part of what we realized a couple of years ago is that within that, we didn't have a completely coordinated way of addressing whether our clients were experiencing homelessness or housing instability, and we didn't really have a clear plan for how to address those things. So sometimes we would learn about these things as we're working with families, right? We have children with special healthcare needs. That's a program in our department, and maybe it might get disclosed as someone's working with their case manager, but otherwise we didn't really have a consistent way. And so we put this work group together, not necessarily with a main target focus on people in active homelessness. We have in Department of Workforce Services, there's the Office of Homeless Services. They do a lot of that contracting and work with direct service providers. We don't have as much of that in Department of Health and Human Services. We have a few direct things related to disability services. Services for people with disabilities is also in DHHS. But otherwise, it's a little bit more like to the side. So we thought, okay, is our place in this more about prevention? So we put together this prevention work group. It has members from all of those different departments or divisions that I mentioned who come together. And part of what we're trying to do is make sure that we do ask these questions across our intake if we are engaging with families, or for this group, youth. That tends to happen particularly with our DCFS and juvenile justice services. So one of the things that we've done is put together we have some standardized questions. They're not necessarily as much about active homelessness. They're more about like, are you in an overcrowded situation? Did your family move a lot in the last year? Was your family struggling to cover all of the basic needs? Did you kind of have to make trade-offs? And based on how those questions are answered, that is starting to inform some of the work that we do across our division. So JJYS has started implementing these questions for any youth that comes into secure care or detention, receiving centers. And then based on how the youth responds, they can get connected over to DCFS, which has some programming to support them on aftercare services or like particular housing vouchers, or where we can help kind of just know that this is part of the context that that youth is experiencing, so that we can better serve them without making an assumption of like, they're going to be where we said that they should be. That sounds easy for someone who has a really stable home. It's not so easy for someone who doesn't. So part of why I came here today, and it's sort of short, so my presentation might not take the full 30 minutes, is to answer any questions that you guys might have about this work group and see if anyone from this group would like to participate and join us. Because we know in our department, we have in our Office of Substance Use and Mental Health, we have someone who connects directly over with USBE at that level, but we know there are folks on the ground who might just be interested in learning more about what we're doing in this space, ways that we can better collaborate with schools and students to kind of help in this prevention space wherever we can with the services that we provide. So that's the whole kind of spiel from me. I guess questions from people about Department of Health and Human Services generally, about the work group, about the expectations of participating if you're interested, sort of open floor.
Awesome. Thank you, Casey. So grateful for you and for the work you do and that you're here to join us today. If you do have a question for Casey or just want some additional information, or even if you want to go ahead and commit to join this work group, please feel free, if you feel comfortable, to come off mute, or you can put it in the chat, or you can contact Casey directly. Any of those work wonderful. So time is yours. Any questions, please feel free to unmute.
I see a question from Christine. How do we join the work group? You can just email me. I'll put my email in the chat right here. And then the time commitment, obviously, we all know how meetings go. No one can force you to be there, but we do meet once a month for an hour. And when we say an hour at DHHS, it's usually 50 minutes. We try and end 10 minutes early so that people can get to their next meeting or like breathe, drink water, etc. I send the agenda out about a week ahead of time. You can always ask to be put on the agenda. We save time for like program updates or questions. So I'll put that contact information in the chat right now. And if you want to join for a bit and then you're like, this is not as applicable as I thought it was going to be, that's totally fine. We're not offended. It's just an open invitation. And we would also love to hear maybe more about things that happen in your school or your area, problems that you run into. We know as a big state agency, sometimes we think we're doing something that's helpful and it might not be. So we're open to feedback as well.
Wonderful. It looks like Casey put her contact information in the chat. Feel free to reach out to her. And yeah, that sounds wonderful. Casey, thank you so very much for being here and for the wonderful opportunity. Sure appreciate you.
Thanks for having me. And hopefully I'll hear from some of you. We'd really like to build this connection.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Casey.
Thank you.
All right, guys, we're at this stage now where let me share my screen so I can show you where we're at. Let's see here. Okay, so our next presenter will be at 10:30. It's Liz Marie Santiago Orterio and Heidi Patterson from the Utah Domestic Violence Coalition. So Becky, while you set them up with presenter mode, I'm pretty sure you already have, why don't we go ahead and take a quick 15-minute break, a comfort break, and we'll be back here right at 10:30 for that presentation. Once again, thank you everyone for being here today. What a great meeting so far. Thank you for your attention and your dedication. We'll see you back here in about 15 minutes.
Hey, Jen.
Okay, welcome back, everyone. I know we're a minute ahead of time, but just welcoming everybody back. Grateful for your participation so far today and for being here. We now are in the second part of our meeting. We have with us Liz Marie Santiago and Heidi Patterson from the Utah Domestic Violence Coalition. Becky, if you could please give them presenter mode. I think you already have. Liz, thank you so much for being here, as well as Heidi. Thank you for being here as well. We will go ahead and turn the time over to you guys. Thank you so much. Hello, Liz. We could see you in your presentation a moment ago. We can't see anything or hear anything from you right now. Do you want to try? And let's see if you'll mute. That's the problem we have here. I'm just looking at our list of people. Let me see if I can find you.
I have Liz set up as a presenter, so we should be able to see her presentation when she shares.
Okay. See if we can hear you. So I think this is the issue we're running into, Becky and Liz. Before you share your screen, Liz, in Teams, there's a toggle that you have to click on. It says share with audio. I think that could be the case. Yes, she's unmuted, Becky. I'm not sure quite how we can help troubleshoot this. So Liz, yeah, we can see your screen perfectly.
But we can't hear you.
Okay, I can kind of hear you. It's very faint though. Okay. So Becky, it's saying Haley says she's on the phone with Liz and she just can't get the audio. Haley, can you unmute so I can see if you have audio?
She's gonna step out and then come back in, and hopefully that fixes it.
Perfect. We can hear you. Okay, I just didn't know if it was like a everybody thing or not. Thank you for your patience, everyone. Haley, thanks for being here. We're excited to hear from you in a little while.
Yeah.
And is that something, if she continues having problems, would that be something that you could actually help with or talk through?
I'm not sure. I'm not with Liz. I'm just a good colleague of Liz. And
Okay.
so she asked me to join. So hopefully she can figure it out on her end.
Okay, so let's see if that will work. I think she just got back in.
Yeah, I need to reset her up as presenter, so let me
Okay,
hold on.
very cool.
Okay, so I just made her a presenter. It might take a moment for that to take effect.
Okay.
Liz, do you want to say something? No.
Let's see. Okay, so she's in.
And I know on the presentation side, if we have problems there, I could, if it were to be sent to me, I can share the presentation. I wouldn't necessarily be able to talk about it, but I could at least click through it.
Liz, do you want to try to share your screen one more time? Let's see if we can see your presentation, and then we'll try to talk through your slides as well.
So Liz is going to present through my phone. She'll share the slides, but the sound will come through my phone, if that makes sense.
Brilliant. Thank you, Haley.
Yep. Put you on speaker, Liz.
Let's see if I can do this, friends.
Can y'all hear her?
Yes, I can hear
Okay.
her pretty good. Yep.
Can you see my screens?
Yes,
Yes.
Liz, thank you so much. Sorry about the technical difficulties. Thank you for staying with
No
us.
worries. The hero is Haley. Well, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm Liz Marie Santiago Pero. I am the Housing and Economic Empowerment Coordinator with the Utah Domestic Violence Coalition. I'm just going to do a quick overview of our coalition. I'm going to mute myself. Does that work better?
Yeah, that should work better.
Okay. So this is what the UDVC does. The Utah Domestic Violence Coalition is an independent, nationally recognized, not-for-profit coalition working to improve domestic violence intervention and prevention efforts in the state of Utah. We represent victim service providers and shelters across the state who are delivering direct services to domestic violence survivors and dependents. Currently, we partner with 16 domestic violence service providers as well as culturally specific agencies across our state and different wraparound services that we provide as we collaborate and network with our community partners, such as all of y'all. What we do is we advocate for policies, practices that enhance victims' safety and empowerment. We raise awareness of the need of prevention and intervention. I feel like this is a reoccurring theme that we're hearing with all of the information shared today. Thank you for having me and hearing about these amazing resources. We partner with stakeholders to improve responses to survivors. We offer training and technical assistance. We engage in outreach strategies and activities and serve as an information clearinghouse for the state. We are making a difference. How we are making a difference? We advocate, collaborate, and educate professionals and community members statewide. We have legislative advocacy and policy analysis. We assist our programs in acquiring and maintaining funding. Providing technical assistance, and that does not mean computers, friends. Obviously, you know that I was not great at that. It means in terms of best practices and what's going on, boots on the ground, whether it's federal policies, state policies, best practices for survivors and individuals that we serve, trainings and partnerships with our member organizations, community outreach, prevention, and education. Education and collaboration with systems such as law enforcement, DCFS, healthcare, housing, etc. So many more that are not represented in this slide. We do have our link line, which is Utah's 24/7 statewide domestic violence hotline. And I'd like to go a little bit into what that is. The link line provides a 24/7 statewide confidential advocacy to all people impacted or engaging in domestic violence. I just want to highlight the fact that the hotline is not just for an individual themselves, a survivor or victim, however they identify. It's also for you guys as you're trying to learn more about resources, maybe some shelters, maybe some assistance. They can help you per county and find you that information that is closer to that individual that you're trying to help, as well as talk through with you when it comes to like what you're experiencing when you get a disclosure and how you may be able to better serve an individual if that hasn't been something that's part of what you understand or what you've done, but you see the importance. Information on domestic violence and its dynamics, appropriate resources and referrals. We do safety planning with individuals and crisis intervention. We do have interpretation services available in 255 languages. How can we help callers with, like I said, safety planning? We do have crisis intervention, emotional support, resources, safety screens such as the lethality assessment protocol, SSRS, which is more of the mental health and suicidal ideation. We have information, and we do warm 3-party calls to service providers. None of the information that we have, it's all, we don't have a database with the information, and we don't do return phone calls. You can call back and ask questions, or the survivor can, but we don't keep anybody's information as it is all confidential information. We do not provide legal advice, but we can provide legal resources. We do not do direct connection to 911 or mobile responses. Provide a callback or follow-ups. We do not do case management, therapy, or counseling. And we do not have necessarily up-to-date shelter bed availability, although we can connect you to shelters in the area that you're in or what's available in our state. And we do not do in-person meetings when it comes to the link line. This is our link line information, and we just started doing a chat feature on our website that is super helpful, as a lot of individuals find it more safe to text and chat and be able to get off it quickly. Domestic violence is a pervasive, life-threatening crime that affects millions of individuals across the United States, regardless of age, economic status, race, sexual orientation, gender identity, religion, ability, or educational level. Right before or after leaving is the most dangerous time for a survivor. People often assume leaving is the right choice when in an abusive relationship, but really it is more complicated than that. Survivors stay for many reasons. As you can see in this slide, it's almost overwhelming to see all of these things, and these are not all encompassing of the reasons why an individual would stay in a relationship. Housing was talked about several times in this call, having that housing stability, financial pressures. We talked about individuals not having really support. Cultural context, intimidation and fear, safety is one. Shame. Our children, as we're elevating our children and our children's needs for stability and preventing any child abuse or any additional cases, right? The normalization of things are not that bad. Immigration status, low self-esteem, religious beliefs, pets is a huge one. And misconception about resources. When we think about what it takes to leave, it's really difficult. And you'll see that it takes almost the same thing. Those wraparound services and support, it takes a great deal of support for an individual to leave. Statistics nationally are that individuals it takes 7 times for a survivor to have left an abusive relationship, not 7 times experiencing abuse, but 7 times leaving to fully leave. And then it takes all of these great supports and things in place, and that doesn't mean that the abuse stops there. So you think about their assistance with immigration status, advocacy, safe childcare, ADA accessibility, safe housing, transportation, income, cultural understanding, all of these different things. Safety is a big one. Access and knowledge to resources, and having pet-friendly access to resources, as well as religious support. There is no real difference between physical, sexual, and emotional abuse. All that distinguishes one from the other is the abuser's choice of weapon. Domestic violence impacts all of us, and it is important to understand its complexities. But you can be the one person to empower the survivor to change their life and support them. One of the most important pieces of when you are given that disclosure of domestic violence to keep in mind is be judgment-free. Remember that you are showing up to listen, validate, and hear their story, and connect them to services. It is not about you having all of the answers. It's about knowing that you can reach out to our link line and connect them. You can reach out to the link line before, to educate yourself a little bit more and understand what the services are available around you. Meeting someone where they're at means bridging the gap between your own expectations and where the other person is coming from. It means intentionally listening and understanding their values, their needs, desires, and even their trauma responses. A lot of times you may feel that an individual that's in crisis and going through trauma is not following through with things. They're quote unquote non-compliant. They may be quote unquote aggressive or dismissive or numb or not think the situation is as urgent or emergent as you do. But that's a trauma response that's real. This is a quote that I just absolutely love, and I hope you guys take that to heart. And I'll be happy to share these things with you guys, the slides, because it has good information on it. If I cannot do great things, I can do small things in a great way. This is information on our domestic violence service providers, the purpose and the services that are provided. An overview is we have shelters, is often known as shelters. We have 16 in our state within our state. They're a safe place for survivors and children, most of which serve both male LGBTQIA, female survivors, individuals, as well as families. Available 24/7. They have strict confidentiality. They are run by community-based advocates. That means it's not within our system-based advocates that also have a different type of confidentiality. They provide domestic violence, sexual assault, rape crisis services, de-escalation, and safety planning. Most of them have counseling services and support groups. They provide food and personal care items, case management. Some have transitional housing, children's services, referrals to other local organizations, including legal and medical services. But it's important to know that shelter as well as transitional housing is a temporary solution to this. This is just a map showing you guys where the service providers are. As you can see, our state is super large. There's a lot of rural areas that have no access to shelters, or it's a very far drive in between, more concentrated in the north part of our state. I'm providing you guys with the contact information and the locations. We have 2 slides here that provide you so that based on wherever you are located, that is a good place to call, as well as you feel that somebody needs to be further out due to safety, you have access to that information. I welcome you to visit our website, theudbc.org. We have spots for you to request personalized trainings, have conversations with us about technical assistance, peruse it. We do have samples of safety plans and other resources within our website, but you can also access our trainings and request for trainings, even if it's not something that we have created. We do those things. And then I've provided you with some slides on like our national hotlines, additional. This Love is Respect is more geared towards young folks. It's amazing. We have UCASA, which is our sister coalition for sexual assault. We have our Native American Helpline. We have our National Domestic Violence Coalition information, safety net resources. We have our stalking awareness organization, and they have amazing stuff on their website in order to help someone kind of walk through that. This is our information. And this is my personal information, and Heidi couldn't be here because she was presenting elsewhere. But this is our direct contact. Feel free to reach out. Our number one thing is to be able to connect with y'all, to provide you support. It is literally our job. Oh, was that too quick, Haley? My contact.
I put it in the chat.
I cannot hear you.
You're okay.
Good. Does anybody have any questions? That was pretty quick. But does anybody have any questions on how to contact us? We believe it takes all of us to provide supports to these families. It's important for us to understand homelessness and those needs add additional barriers, additional safety components. But, you know, collaborations with your local homeless councils, you know, your LHCs, understanding your continuum of care people, being able to be present at those meetings and collaborate is super awesome. And just educate yourself and network with those that are providing services within your community to better understand where you can refer, how you can understand who qualifies for things. Somebody asked a question in the chat.
Thank you so much, Liz. Liz, can you please send me your slide deck so I can send that out to the people who are in the meeting today?
Where's Carbon County? Oh, Colleen Quigley is the closest one to you.
Perfect. Awesome.
It's the third bullet down on the left-hand side.
Okay.
And I will share this and send this out to you, Robert.
Awesome.
In order for you to be able to disseminate it and share it with everyone. So y'all don't have to take notes. It just will all be there available to you.
That is so wonderful. Thank you, Liz. Thank you, Haley. You saved the day. Is there any other questions before we let Liz go? Awesome. Okay, thank you so much, Liz. Thank you, Haley. We'll see Haley in just a little bit with her wonderful presentation as well. Thank you both so very much. Appreciate you both. Okay. What a very important topic. Thank you for sticking with us during technical difficulties. We never quite know what's going to end up happening with the tech, but worked out well. Thank you to Haley for stepping in and helping us with that. Okay, next up, we have Nicole Basante and Debbie Williamson from the Office of Biorecords and Statistics. I'm excited for their presentation. We've been collaborating a lot back and forth, and so I'm excited to hear what they have to share with you. And Becky, if you could give both of them presenter status, that would be great.
All right, can folks hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank goodness. Yes.
Oh, okay, perfect. And I'll just be presenting. So
wonderful. Okay.
Debbie might be talking, but I'll be presenting.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, first of all, thanks for having us. I'm super happy to be here. This is, access to vital records is a big deal, and it's especially challenging for folks who are homeless or who don't have income. And so we're happy to help where we can. Okay, can people see my slideshow?
Okay. Yes, it looks great. Thank you.
I can't see it, so I'm not as familiar with Teams, so I apologize for that. Okay, so again, I'm Nicole Bissonette. I'm the OVRS director. Debbie, do you want to introduce yourself real quick so folks can see you?
Sure. My name is Debbie Williamson, and I am the issuance manager here at Vital Records.
Okay. So first of all, we're going to spend a little bit of time just reviewing the state code, and then I'm going to share the options for obtaining birth certificates. There's actually ways for homeless individuals, homeless students, but also there's ways for schools if you need a copy for school purposes. So I'm going to share that and then just go over the forms and what type of ID is needed for that. So so this is in the Vital Records Code. It's 26B 8113. And so this talks about we are able to share a free copy for people who are homeless. And so there's actually a form that needs to be filled out, which we'll talk about that. It's our homeless waiver form. And McKinney-Vento individuals, actually, I believe it says a local education agency liaison for homeless children. So a McKinney-Vento representative can sign that form for the child, the student, to get their free copy of a birth certificate. So it also can be signed by a homeless shelter, permanent housing, or supportive or transitional facility, homeless service provider, and workforce services. So there's quite a few different individuals who can sign that form. So we have a few different options for obtaining a birth record, and they're for different purposes. So the first one is for a homeless student or relative, the process for them to obtain a free copy. The second is for a McKinney-Vento process to obtain a free copy for the student. So we differentiate this, and then the next option, which is the McKinney-Vento or school process to obtain a copy for school purposes. And so we'll go into those a little bit more. So the first one, this is for the student. So what would need to happen here is that the student or the student's parent could get a completed verification of homelessness form signed. So the McKinney-Vento representative could sign that form. It can also be signed by the other individuals that are listed in statute. And then the student, parent, grandparent, or sibling can come into a state or local office with the verification form in their ID to order a certificate. They can also order by mail. We just need to have all of the items together to be able to process that. And so we put our location. This is our main Salt Lake location right here. And then we also have local health department locations where you could order those certificates. So they would need to have the completed homeless verification form. They would need a photo ID. If it's a student who doesn't have an ID yet, they could use a school ID. That's acceptable. If it's a parent or grandparent, it needs to be a driver's license, passport, or state issued ID. So it could be an ID card. And then the birth certificate application form. So you can either complete it, the student and parent can fill it out in advance, or they could, when they get into the office, fill it out. Obviously, if they're mailing it in, they would need to print it and fill it out. I saw one question. Let me see what the question is. I know. So I don't keep that list. That list is actually done with the driver's license division. So I've been working with Robert to get a list of LEA folks, and we can share that with our local health department. So we will have a list of that. Okay. And also the form doesn't have you, I'm making a new form. I'm taking the old form and putting LEA on there so you can put it on there and put your school. So we'll go over that shortly. Okay. So then the next process is you might have a parent who's not engaged, or the student doesn't have another family member who can help. And we want to try to make this so that you can access this form. There was some legislation that didn't pass that would put LEAs, or not LEAs, McKinney-Vento representatives as a person on the entitlement. But since it didn't pass, we have come up with a way to kind of work around that. And so we put together an entitlement authorization form. So there's two forms. There's the homeless or verification of homelessness form that the McKinney-Vento rep would sign. And then we put together another form, and I'll show you that in a minute, that would let the student give you as the McKinney-Vento rep permission to get that form. And so if the student, puts their name and puts who they're authorizing and signs it, we will allow you to get the document for them. And so so the challenge with us is we have a lot of people try to commit fraud, and so we have to do things very specific ways. But since we'll have a list of the McKinney-Vento reps, we also can see emails that come from a school. So in this in this process, you can either email it, you can mail it, or you can come in person. You can do all three. So as long as all the documentation is attached in an email or in a snail mail, we'll let you do it that way. We'd have to have the email come from your school account. It can't come from a private account. But then in this way, if you have all the documentation, we'll let you do it that way to try to help as much as possible. But you just either mail in the forms and all the paperwork, or you could come in. And so what's needed is the completed verification of homelessness form, the entitlement authorization form signed by the student, your employee, so your school employee photo ID, and then the birth certificate application form. So those three things. And let me check the questions real quick. Students are sharing housing. Do they still qualify for the fee waiver? I mean, I don't know. Let's see. I can't fill out the form. So, I mean, the form everything has to be filled out. So I don't know the answer to that question. I mean, if you deem that they are homeless, I think you can sign that form. So the LEA is a representative who's able to make that homelessness verification. The student can be any age if they need the birth record. The sibling can be any age if they have a photo ID. So if they're over 18, that makes it really easy. Debbie, what would we do if we had two siblings? I mean, you wouldn't, if you had two minor siblings and nobody had a driver's license, if the older sibling has a driver's license, that's good enough. Mm-hmm. So if it's a sibling that's 16 or 17 or 18, and then anybody above, if they have a driver's license, that's great. What would we do, Debbie, if we had two siblings, neither had they both
do
only
they have
had
school ID, social security card, anything to prove it's them?
Yeah,
anything
that might be
all?
one where, I mean, it maybe have the LEA rep, the McKinney-Vento rep, come in and just have the students sign the form for them to come in and get it. Okay, somebody said they have undocumented homeless students and we did a fee waiver for them. Okay, perfect. Okay. So if it's coming from the McKinney-Vento representative, you can do email, mail, or in person. All three options, because we feel very confident that you have verified that who you're asking for is who they are. The next option, so this option is a little bit different. In statute, it says that state, local, and federal agencies are entitled to certificates. So if you need a certificate for school registration, we can give that to you. That is already an entitlement, and it doesn't have to be the McKinney-Vento rep who requests it. It can be the school secretary, it could be the principal, it could be the counselor, as long as you share a school ID. This process is a little bit different. And the other thing that makes this process a little bit different is if you want a certified copy on our certified paper, then there is a fee. However, if you are comfortable taking a white copy from my office, which is it's just not on certified paper, but it is factual and it basically verifies that this is who this student is. If you can take a white copy, which is not on certified paper, and it's emailed to you, then we can do that for free. So that's kind of a little bit of the difference, but this is only for school purposes. And if it's for school purposes, not that you're going to give it to the child, you're just asking to verify that this person is who they say they are for school registration, then you can just request that without the student signing a form. You already have entitlement under our state code, which I know that might sound a little bit confusing. And it's just the same process, mostly the same process. So what we would need here is a signed letter of need on school letterhead. And we do this for many different agencies. So we do this for law enforcement. We do it for sheriff's offices, courts. I'm trying to think, jails, all kinds of folks. So you would need a signed letter on school letterhead. You would need an employee photo ID, but this doesn't have to just be the McKinney-Vento person. It could just be another school representative. Then the birth certificate application form. And then if you need a certified copy, then it is a $25 fee. And if you don't need a certified copy, if a white copy, which is what we call it, is acceptable, which is, if you're comfortable with that coming from us, that it's verification that they are who they say they are, then there's no fee. And so if you have to pay, it's mail or in person. If a white copy is okay, you can do email. Are there any questions on that one? Are there any questions on any of them so far?
Nicole, can you add our email address on the slides so this way they have it?
Bottom.
Oh, I couldn't see it. Okay. All right. Thank you.
No, it's at the bottom of the slide deck. On the last slide, I put our contact info.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. If you guys have questions, please feel free to unmute and ask a question.
Okay. I see one question. Let's see. Right now, only HUD definitions are options on the fee waiver application. I would be okay if you mark transitional housing. I guess essentially what we say is these folks, if you deem that they are homeless, we will accept that. Please do not, say somebody's homeless when they're not really homeless. Does that make sense? If families are doubling up, if we see all of a sudden an influx of free certificates, we're like, well, this is really weird. This is triple the amount we've ever had. We might have to talk about it. But if you feel like they're homeless, then we trust your judgment. Okay. Okay, so I want to go over the forms, and I'm going to send an email out with this information later. So we have two forms: the verification of homelessness form. I have, as I mentioned, modified it to make sure that LEAs are included on there. So I suggest that you use that one. If we get the other one, I don't think we're going to deny it, or if you lose it, you can always reach out and we can resend it. And then the entitlement authorization. And let me go back a couple slides. So this first one, the student is getting the copy and they keep the copy. This second one is a McKinney-Vento representative getting the copy for the student. So you need to be giving the copy to the student to keep after, if you use this process. And then the third one is the school just needs it to help register a student, and you're not going to keep it because it's not actually maybe going to be an official copy unless you pay for it. Also, we would say if you do, we are authorized to give you an actual certificate, and that's the $25. That fee also goes up. It is $25 starting June 1st, right? Or July 1st. Right now it's 22. But if you do get a copy that you're not giving to the student that you pay for, I would suggest you shred those if you use it for school purposes right after. Debbie, does that sound about right? Okay. And again, if we're just sending you the white copy, that's just in an email, and that's just the information on paper. But I would also shred that once you're done, or put it in your file, but don't, please be conscious of how you get rid of it. Okay. Okay. So, and then the entitlement authorization, I'll show you that. So this is what the first form looks like. We added this little section in the bottom right to put that you're a McKinney-Vento school rep. And then the next form, this is just what the student would type, they can type their name. Everything is fillable except the signature. The student would need to sign it, but they can type their name, type who the rep is at their school, date it, and their student phone number. And then that's the other form. And then some considerations. A lot of times people, well, the first one is only one free birth certificate copy is allowed by the statute. And this is intended for the homeless individual. So if you get a certified copy, you can obviously, if the student gets it, use it for registration purposes, but then it needs to go back to the student or the homeless person. And then if they want any additional copies, those are $10 at the time of the order. I didn't put this in there, but I would, sometimes kids don't think about how important this document is. So I would try to impress upon them that this is a big deal, not to share this with other people, not to lose it, to try to put it in a safe place. And then amendments, sometimes records need amendments, like actually very frequently, like a name is spelled wrong, a parent name might be spelled wrong, middle name isn't there, a variety of things happen. And if they do that, that would have to be done by the student, the parent, or the legal guardian, and it needs to be notarized. They can just get in contact with our office. We can help with that. The next thing is, so this is a new process for us. I mean, we've had this for a long time. I don't think it's been very streamlined. So we've really been trying to think about this. So we haven't trained everybody yet. So I guess what I'm trying to say is just give us a week to make sure our whole office staff and our local health department folks know that we have a couple new forms coming out. And you can call us if you have any trouble. This is our main line, and it's just our issuance staff. So it's probably just like if you have a question that isn't in this list, please just push 0 or something like that. Also, I will send these presentations and both of the forms to Robert, and he can mail them out. And again, please don't, these are not public forms, so please don't share them publicly. These are just for you folks. And then I see some questions. Well, we don't have any international birth certificates, so we would not be able to, I mean, I guess I'm trying to figure out your question. Kristen? We wouldn't use an international birth certificate for anything, and we can't issue international ones because we don't have access. You could not use an international birth certificate for a ID. I guess they have to have an actual ID. But I'm not sure if there's another part of that question that I'm not understanding. Okay, the next question. This was a question from Holly to the school liaisons. Do you have a scenario where you would want a white copy versus just helping order the certified copy? Are there any other questions? Are there any other part of the process that you would like me to go over?
If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to come off of mute. Wonderful questions so far. Very, very helpful. I really appreciate your thoughtfulness in these questions. So let me just check what's going on in the chat here. Great. Great. Okay, perfect. So Nicole and Debbie and I have a meeting in tomorrow to discuss some of these things as well. I absolutely will send out all of these things, everything that the presenters, I'll try to follow up with them and get their slides as well, so we can send those out. Nicole and Debbie, thank you so very much for being here today. Very important information. Really appreciate you sharing it with us today.
You're very welcome. And if anybody ever has a question like for a need for the birth record, they're not sure which process, they can always call and ask. So
awesome. Thank you both very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye. Awesome. Great presentation. Very important information there. I really appreciate the thoughtful questions so that we could all kind of see where there's some sticking points or some ideas. If you have a question you want me to ask Nicole during our meeting tomorrow, feel free to email it to me and I'll ask her. She's been very wonderful to collaborate with. I really enjoy collaborating with her. And so we're going to look at our agenda again and get ready for our next presentation. So we have coming up, Haley is going to rejoin us. Haley Hernandez and Teresa Sanchez from maternal mental health support for unhoused populations, and they'll be doing their presentation at 11:30. So, well, Becky, if you don't mind getting them set up all ready to go as presenters, I'm sure you already have, but thank you so much, and thank you again to Becky for making sure that we have everything up and ready to go. Just some updates from my end from the USBE while we have a minute. One thing I did want to tell you is funding could potentially be delayed again this year. I hope not. I don't think we have any control over that, but if it is, please just make sure that you are submitting your reimbursement requests in a timely manner. That's one thing I keep hearing from the federal government, is to please keep submitting those on time so we can make sure that they don't take any of our funding. So if that could happen, that'd be great. Yes, Mike.
Quick question. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Keep going on that.
No, please. Piece. Always great to hear from you.
So some of us were on the monitoring visit for this year. Are you not coming to visit the district? You just want the written submissions?
No, we are. What I'm doing first, and thank you for bringing that up. So, Mike, what we're going to do is I like to have things pre-prepared. And that way, when legislature or the federal government come to me and ask me questions, I already have it there. That was not required from anyone other than for me to kind of take a look at all the programs at once, especially our migrant program was in that case. And I wanted to do it with McKinney-Vento as well. With that form you fill out, I can review it, and then I'll come meet with you to monitor you this spring, summer, and talk about the different things that are already on that form, if there's any concerns or if we have anything in particular, or just have a conversation about what's working well for you guys and how things are going. So that's kind of where we're going with that. Those meetings will most likely end up being virtual meetings just to save on time and on travel. With you, Mike, being in Salt Lake right down the road, that's something that we can talk about where I just can come in person if you'd prefer. But yeah, that form is just so we're
just getting down on, we have 21 days of school, not that anyone's counting, but most of us don't work in the summer. So I'm just concerned we're getting to the end of the school year and we haven't had that. And so I don't want it to be at the last minute. So if we can get that scheduled sooner than later, that'd be great.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you just want to shoot me an email with days and times that work for you, we can set that up. Absolutely. Yeah. I don't plan on doing it in the summer. I wanted to make sure that you had the time to do it. I know right now it's testing for a lot of people. I'm not sure how involved you guys get with testing time, but just want to be respectful of your time. So yeah, if you'll send me those emails, that'd be great. And Becky, I think we have enough time. Let's go ahead and let's bump up the presentation, the recording that Alyssa Palmer did, And that way we can let these kind folks out a little bit early today. Becky, can you try to pull that video up and share it with us? And just to work the wise, when Melissa made this and Becky and I reviewed the presentation, the first slide, you can't hear her talking, but then the second slide, you can. So Becky will get that up and going, and then we'll be ready to go.
Sorry, it's just taking me a second to get things straightened.
Thank you, Becky. Sorry to pull that out at the last minute on you. I appreciate it. This is still a slide, correct? So we're not expecting to hear anything yet.
I can't hear anything.
Yeah, this is the first slide, and Becky told me the first slide we don't hear anything, but then the second one we should. Becky, is this still the first slide?
No, let me hold on.
So when you share it, Becky, there's a toggle that you click on that says share with Shane. If that doesn't work, then I think we're gonna have to move on and we'll have to send out the presentation from Alyssa in the email.
Okay. Hold on. My apologies.
No worries, you're doing fantastic. Thank you. And Becky, you actually have to, before you share, you have to click the with sound first and then click share. Okay, perfect. "22 days, Mike? That's incredible. That's an exciting time. I can't believe we're that close. I didn't know it was down to 22. That's amazing. I'm surprised none of my 4 children have told me that yet, as they like to count down everything school related.
We all do. We're all counting. Well, some of us are counting.
I love it. Hey, Becky, that's okay. Thank you so much for trying. I thought we had it figured out, you guys. I apologize. That's what we were told would make it work. We tried it and it kind of worked, but no worries. We'll just email that out.
Okay.
I do see that my
I just
friend...
tried restarting it.
Okay.
Okay.
Perfect.
Think about when doing some of this work, as well as share a little bit about me and my background. So I was born in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, so on the East Coast, to 2 teenage parents. When I was born and throughout my early childhood, my family experienced a lot of housing instability. And throughout my entire childhood, we grew up sort of below the poverty line, depending on a variety of sort of government and local systems to sort of help us get through. I also had a lot of amazing community supports, family supports, and educational supports that really supported my family in thriving and supported me in thriving. And I became the first member of my family to go to college. While at college, I got connected with another wonderful federally funded program called the TRIO program, which helped get me prepared in order to go pursue a PhD at the University of Minnesota. Um, at Minnesota, I was in a clinical psychology PhD program where I got the opportunity to do a variety of really cool community engaged projects, some with local emergency family shelters, as well as others working with the local school district, as well as even zooming out a little bit more and working with large administrative data sets. As a clinical psychologist, I also had to do some training clinically
Becky,
for a
can you
year
try to
in
increase the
Teaching Hospitals
volume
for
on
Los
your end?
Angeles, where I specialized in early childhood mental health and assessment. To wrap up my training, I did some work at UCLA, where I continue to work with local shelters there, as well as with a large school district in California as well. And finally, I moved to the University of Utah. I have lived in Utah since August, and it's been wonderful. I'm sharing a picture of my pup there, who I don't think will ever let me leave because she loves it here so much. And so with that, my research program really tries to answer questions about what promotes developmental resilience in the context of early childhood housing instability. And I really try to do this through a strength-based lens and by focusing in on a couple key areas. One is around improving tools to better understand and identify children's needs early. Another is around considering the role of larger societal systems and how those systems are supporting or hindering the development of young children. And finally, the last thing is around sort of identifying strategies to promote overall well-being and family well-being. And I try to do all of this work in and with the communities that I aim to serve, which is a little bit about why I'm here and sort of presenting to you all today. Additionally, you might be wondering what around the experience of homelessness am I interested in? And I have repeatedly found myself really drawn to early childhood experiences of housing instability based off of the reason that I'm interested in this is because I really view it as a And this is a problem because even with sort of the data we do have, we know that there are sort of widespread effects of early childhood homelessness on later development. We see effects on mental health, cognitive functioning, a wide swath of health-related concerns, speech, social skills, and I assume importantly to you guys, academic achievement long-term. And so a little bit of the work that I've continued to do in this space and sort of building off of that Homework Starts with Home project was being able to run and evaluate data in the Minneapolis screening study, where I worked with early education departments, the Minneapolis Public School District, as well as, again, with these larger administrative data sources. And what we were able to do is collect a swath of data on young children experiencing homelessness, as well as kids in sort of comparable community settings, and sort of look at how they were doing on the standardized early screening protocol that young kids were actually going through before entering kindergarten within that school district. And what we were able to find is that there were sort of these general groupings of kids in which most kids were doing sort of average on all of the screeners or even above average. And then we had about 20% of the population that was performing below average on those screeners, where we see some kids who were sort of doing on average about a standard deviation below the mean. And then we had some other kiddos that were doing similarly on some things, but had some specific challenges in cognition, language, and some gross motor skills, as well as some social and emotional functioning sorts of things. And importantly, what we are able to show is that children who experienced risks were present in all profiles. So we had a lot of kids that were experiencing homelessness that were also in that above average range. But that kids experiencing homelessness were more likely to be in that below average group compared to the above average or average profile, suggesting that these early experiences are already setting kids up on trajectories that put them at risk for stuff at school. We also did some additional analyses where we were looking specifically at a skill called executive functioning, which is a really specific indicator of cognitive abilities and sort of your ability to self-regulate thoughts and cognitions. And one thing we found were that early experiences of homelessness were predicting all the way to third grade reading and math achievement, and that this early experience predicted even when controlling for concurrent third grade experiences of homelessness, and that executive functioning actually mediated or explained some of that association. And the reason that that's important is that executive function might be a specific target that we might be able to shape or alter in order to improve the long-term outcomes and adaptability of families experiencing homelessness. So with this, I actually got pulled into writing a policy brief that was aimed at national and state level sorts of adjustments. Where we worked with the National American Psychological Association to make recommendations around expanding early developmental screening and mental health screening for young kids, and particularly trying to target services to families experiencing homelessness, as well as trying to increase timely access to family-based and trauma-informed early intervention and prevention services, including the connection to early education services. And then finally also to stabilize family basic needs through strengthening and expanding programs that reduce kiddos' experience and exposure to risks associated with housing instability. That policy issue and brief, if you're interested, is actually live at this URL, and we did a short webinar where you can sort of hear me talking more in depth about this policy brief. So with that, I just wanted to sort of give you a broad idea of the sorts of work that I've done, maybe to inspire some ways in which I might be able to collaborate with you in your district. But generally, my ideas and goals in my current position is revolving around this idea that almost all of the research and the research done to date really excludes the vast majority of children experiencing homelessness that we should be including under that broader McKinney-Vento definition. And I am really trying to figure out ways to better study, engage, and understand this full scope of experience of family homelessness in early childhood, as well as think about ways in which we can increase early mental health and developmental screening for all kids, including kids in this space, and better engage families in doubled up circumstances to have better access to early prevention and intervention services that families and shelter systems are getting connected to a little bit more readily.
Becky, we lost your voice for your sound. Is there something on your end or you muted? Oh no, you're not muted. Okay, I think we're there.
Has been in the early childhood
okay,
space.
I can hear it.
As well as to hear just even about your sort of district's needs. Where do you think evaluation and data or scientific support might support your day-to-day practice and efforts? So with that, my email address is on the screen, alyssa.palmer@psych.utah.edu, as well as my office phone number. I'm really hoping that we connect soon. And thank you so much for your time and attention.
Awesome. Thank you, Becky. Thanks, everyone. Sorry about the sound. We'll send out that recording and we send out all the PowerPoints as well. Haley, we're a little behind. I apologize. Thank you for waiting. We're so excited for you to present to us today. Becky, you've already given Haley, it looks like, presenting. Is that correct?
It will be me and Teresa Sanchez. I think she's been on.
Okay. Becky, can you give Teresa, and Haley both presenting? Hey, Teresa, it looks like you have it.
Yeah, hi. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen perfectly. Okay, I think we're ready to go. Awesome. Thank you both.
Perfect. Thank you so much for having us. We're really excited to be here. Let me put this in presentation mode. Like Haley said, my name is Teresa Sanchez, and I partner with Haley Hernandez to come and talk to you all about the Title V project at DHHS and then the maternal mental health training pilot project we are currently doing. I think Casey Hutton has spoken a little bit about DHHS. It is a huge agency, and so some of our work is just very focused on the maternal mental health and health outcomes of families as they face housing or at risk of unhousing. So I just wanted to go over a little bit of my work with Title V. So I don't know if you all are familiar with the the Office of Maternal and Child Health. It is located within the Division of Family Health. Within there is the Office of Children's Special Health Care Needs, which provides the Integrated Services Program, which provides coordinated care services to families across the state. We also have the Office of Early Childhood, which has programs like the Baby Watch Early Intervention Program, which serves infants 0 to 3. And then we have the Home Visiting Program, which serves prenatal to 8 years of age with home visiting services. We also have the Early Childhood Resource website, which is like a one-stop shop to connect to early child resources across the state. We also have the Office of Coordinated Care and Regional Supports, Office of Coordinated Care and Regional Supports. So the Title V block grant is a block grant that runs for 5 years. The purpose is to support the health and well-being of all mothers, children, and families. There are 5 main domains in which we have national and state performance measures that we work with. So that is women, pregnant women, postpartum women, infants, children, adolescents, children's special health care needs. And why they brought me on was a cross-cutting measure for the domains. We are striving to, within this office, provide funding to support public health service models, do data-driven programming and performance accountability. We want to partner with individuals, families, and family-led organizations to create better systems and services that support interests of all maternal and child health populations, and ensure that MCH populations achieve their highest health potential. So with this Title V comes a legislatively required needs assessment every 5 years. The primary goal is to improve maternal and child health outcomes and to strengthen partnerships to ensure the effective implementation and strategies that address the needs of Utah women, children, and families. And so with this needs assessment leads the work we do for the next 5 years of the block grant. And this past, oh, I'm sorry, I think I'm not forwarding in my slides. Is it working? Okay, sorry. Yeah, I realized I wasn't forwarding my slides. So with this last needs assessment we did, we had created 2 surveys geared towards both community members and health providers. This needs assessment was conducted from September to December and was conducted in Spanish and English. So those were some of the limitations. We had pretty good turnaround for response for the community we surveyed. A majority of the respondents were from women and 10% were pregnant when they took the survey. And then some of the results from this needs assessment that I wanted to share with you as you look at this slide is that 32% of community members reported that they did not feel they received the health care they and their family needs, with insurance barriers being a top reason. Overall, community members reported that most common services lacking in their insurance or without insurance is mental health
You want
services,
down?
followed by dental and oral health services. And then they also reported that often they struggle with affording basic health needs, such as housing, food, healthcare, utilities, and childcare. And across all the domains and all demographics
You
and
want to try
geographic
some
locations,
noodles? Yeah, I gotta cook them.
both safe, stable, and affordable home and healthy, affordable food are among the top concerns and priorities for community members to provide and providers, sorry. And we also hosted a summit after the needs assessment was conducted, and unanimously the feedback we received was that housing and food security were at the top of their priorities. And so because of that, we created this state performance measure, calling cross-cutting measure. Let me forward the slide. Oops, let me see. There we go. So with this is the work that I'm currently embarking on. We're in the process of creating this quantitative data analysis using all the appropriate and relative data sources that we will later share with communities of focus. We will develop a report to share out on this. And then our other focus is to foster collaborations and partnership with existing committees and work groups that focus on addressing these non-medical factors that influence, the health and well-being of families in Utah. And that is why I partnered with Haley to work on the maternal mental health service support for unhoused or at-risk committee, since they were already working on this prior to me joining the group. So now I'll give it over to Haley to provide that information.
Thank you, Teresa. So I think I've met with y'all a couple of times in different capacities. So thank you for having me attend again. I'm always grateful to work with you guys and hear about the amazing work that you're doing. So this committee was really focused on the perinatal, early childhood, preschool, and thinking about these families. Hopefully, when you're connecting with the students in grade school, you also are learning about if they do have toddlers or infants in the home. Our project has really been focusing on educating providers and everybody that has touch with these population on how to best support them. And our goal is to create a training to do that. So if you want to go to the next slide, Teresa. Overall, we want to decrease any maternal mental health complications, and with that, developmental delays for these children. We know that when they are not in a safe home receiving healthcare, nutrition, and there is potential for trauma or other mental health complications or substance use, that can all increase the risk of developmental delays for these children. With providing education and knowledge to providers, we hope to decrease that and increase coordination, because when we often think of like coordination for homeless youth, infants and toddlers and babies aren't really included in that often. And so this is what we are hoping to do with this training, is really expand the providers that are thinking about this and coordinating within different spaces to really address this, so homelessness is rare, brief, and non-reoccurring. Teresa, can you go ahead and change to the next slide? The way we will be doing this is a 3-hour in-person training. We have dates set for August 11th, September 15th, and October 6th. Each of those will cover the areas of continuums of care. We are still waiting on what dates each continuum will choose, but they will be a hybrid training. So if you're not able to attend in person, you can attend in a hybrid. And when it comes to who we want to attend, it's everybody that's involved in continuums of care, local homeless councils, schools, daycare providers, hospitals, religious organizations, anybody and everybody that may have touch with this population, even thinking about like libraries, crisis nurseries, social workers at hospitals. So when we send this out with the training dates, I would love if you guys could help share. If you're not able to attend, just sharing it could hopefully change the trajectory of a family's life. having that support and that understanding and training. So that's really what we're trying to get at, is building a holistic network, because again, you guys are working with grade school kids, but we also have to think about these infants and toddlers that may be in the home that are at risk for delays. Can you go to the next slide, Teresa? So hopefully you all are familiar with the continuums of care. We will be working with the balance of state and the Mountainland region and Salt Lake counties to execute the 3 trainings. If you're not able to attend any of the trainings, there will be a recorded version that will be available on the case management website that will have all the details and information and contact information for the providers that were a part of the training in those continuum of care areas. Teresa, will you please go to the next slide? So the training topics will include an introduction on how the continuum of care coordinates and serves that specific population in their region. And then we will have Dakota Matterly, who is the director of the Office of Early Childhood, reviewing programs, services, care coordination, their new website for any children in the 0 to 8 age range, and how they can support them. And then we will have Emily Bennett from the Association for Utah Community Health presenting on social determinants of health, how trauma affects children's behavior, as well as the parents, and how to access federally qualified health clinics and the services that are offered in there. Because oftentimes what we've learned is these families are not accessing healthcare until it's a little too late. And so the more we can coordinate and understand what free services and how to coordinate services are, the more likely families are to access these services. We will have Jay Chavez from the Office of Maternal and Child Health presenting on maternal mental health services and how to access them. And then Sophie Silverstone from the Utah Women's Newborn Quality Collaborative going over a resource guide for low-income families in the maternal space. And Becky King will be presenting on substance use resources in treatment for families, residential treatment for families and youth, and how those services really stabilize families and keep families together when it comes to accessing substance use treatment. And then she will also be talking about how to access local mental health authority services and a little more about the Super Rad program, which is a substance use program for new moms. And then we will have Utah Housing Coalition and Utah Community Action discussing some housing navigation resources, a little information about vouchers, and then just best practices. We all know that this work can be extremely exhausting at times, especially when it comes to navigating and understanding housing resources and renting qualifications and all of that. And so they'll be going over a little bit about self-care when it comes to that work specifically. We will have Cassandra Wambach from 211 giving information on the 211 resources and how they update them as well. They're really interested in more soft handoffs. So oftentimes when you call 211, you can get a link or a phone number to a resource. They're hoping to increase this to more soft handoffs in specific areas where they have contacts. So if somebody is calling for health services in Ogden, they can say, let's connect you to Teresa in Ogden, who works at Community Action, and she can help you accessing those resources as opposed to just giving a phone number. So we're hoping to increase actual resource access for those partners and those families. And then we will have Gina Cornea from Utahns Against Hunger going over food resources and access. Next slide, please. So I think this is yours, Teresa.
Thanks, Haley. So the next steps for us are to send out save the dates. I did want to correct one thing. Those 3 that will be in person will not be hybrid. I think we've decided that in order for us to network with the folks that are in, the local COCs, we'd like for that to be kind of exclusively in person. And then there will be a virtual training or pre-recorded option that anyone across the state can attend or have access to afterwards. We will also be conducting pre and post assessments and collect feedback for all the trainings to ensure that the information was helpful, that folks are, utilizing it, and then, provide that feedback of what we need to enhance and how we can improve these trainings. And so hopefully we are able to connect with folks on that level as well during this, all of these trainings. So I will provide our contact information in the chat, but we would love for you all to, connect with us, especially if you are well connected or not well connected with the continuums of care or your local homeless councils, so that you attend some of these trainings for your areas, and then, see how we could better support and share resources with one another. I think the save the dates, we can definitely send those out through Robert. Hopefully that could be, disseminated that way. But please don't hesitate to reach out. We would love to connect with you and send you that save the date personally as well. And thank you, Haley, for putting that in the chat. And I'll stop sharing so I can see the screen because I can't see anything. Any questions from anybody?
Thank you, Teresa. Thank you, Haley. Great opportunity here. If any of you have any questions or need some clarification or want to just talk more about this with Haley or with Teresa, feel free to unmute. Thank you so much for both being here and for presenting and all your help today as well, Haley. Really appreciate you stepping in with the tech issues.
Happy to. Thanks for allowing me into this space.
Always a good day to have all of our friends back with us again today. And Haley, just so you know, I started the meeting off with, we have a lot of new people here today. We have some charter school liaisons that haven't been here before. So we're grateful for them to be participating today as well. So they may have not been able to meet you previously, but grateful they're all here. Any other questions? Okay, well, thank you, Haley. Thank you, Teresa. Have a great rest of your day. We'll see you soon. Okay, boy, what a great day. We're moving right along here. Let's see, let me share my screen if I can. There we go. Okay, this part I'm really excited for. We have Elliot Williams and Karen Rice from Schoolhouse Connection. Karen and I meet frequently in what's called Lunchtime Live, where there's a little bit of a training for state coordinators. But I'm going to turn it over, if it's okay, if he's willing to my good friend, Mike Harmon, who I have just always looked up to and admired and respected greatly. Mike, I know you reached out to me and tipped me off to Elliot and to Rod. Rod's not able to present, so Karen's going to be pinch hitting for him. But Mike, if you would be so kind, would you do a better introduction of them than me and kind of what you've been working on with them?
Absolutely. And I appreciate the time today. So as you all know, Schoolhouse Connection is an amazing resource and is there to support the work that McKinney-Vento liaisons are doing across the country. Elliot's been working on some state legislation, was working with us last year when we were working on some of the high school graduation things. And unfortunately, those bills didn't get far in the process. But Elliot has been a great resource as to looking at some of our state legislation. He was also working with the folks from the health department on the IDs and things like that. So I haven't met Karen, I think it was Karen, but I'm excited they're here today to talk about other kinds of state advocacy we maybe want to be working towards. And so I will just turn the time over to Elliot and Karen.
Great. Thank you, Mike. Mike, just so grateful for you and for all your support and for leading out here in the state for us. Becky, can you please make Elliot and Karen Rice presenter mode? I think they are. Elliot, I saw you on. I think Karen just joined. Are you guys able to share your screens and present to us? We're so grateful you're here today. Yeah, we can see your screen. Thank you so much. We'll turn the time over to Elliot and to Karen. Thank you.
All right, great. Thank you so much, Robert, for having us, inviting us, and Mike for making that connection. We really appreciate it. As indicated, I'm Elliot. I am the Senior Manager for State Policy at Schoolhouse Connection. And later on in the presentation, Karen will also be speaking with you all. So for those of you, I think a lot of people are familiar with our organization, but just in case you're not, we are a national nonprofit organization working to overcome homelessness through education and early care. And we do that through a number of different programs, including strategic advocacy, both at the state and federal level, but also practical assistance, which may be how you're more familiar with our work. We also have a wonderful youth scholarship program, which I'll make sure to raise up at the end of our presentation. We are currently accepting applications for youth. So I will remind you all at the end of the presentation for that. Looking, and I'll share the slides for this entire presentation here before we leave. There is a link there for our website if you have more questions, and then there's also a link to our newsletter. In terms of what we're going to be covering today, I'll be handling the first two sections. So I'm going to walk through our state policy work generally and what it looks like all across the country. And then also talk a little bit more about what's been going on in Utah specifically, to what Mike had referred to a little bit before. I'm also going to touch a little bit more on some of the vital document access that you already heard from Department of Health and Human Services about. And then I'll turn it over to Karen for the last section, and she'll walk through the resources and supports that we have at Schoolhouse Connection for you all. So with that, I want to move to our first section on state policy. And I'm sure y'all are aware of the importance of federal policy, given that this gathering today is called the McKinney-Vento gathering, and that's of course based on the McKinney-Vento Act, federal law. But a lot of what we see that really impacts the lives of the students that you work with is actually controlled at the state level. And so at Schoolhouse Connection, we put the different policies into four main buckets. These are kind of the four areas that we work on. And you can see it starts with early care and K-12 education, all the way through post-secondary supports and access, and really a large focus also on what's happening with the unaccompanied homeless youth that you're working with as it relates to access to medical care, access to housing, and vital documents. So I'd like to provide you with just some specifics so you have a sense of what this actually looks like. So on your screen, you'll see here legislation that was introduced in several states all across the country just in this year alone. So this will give you some examples of what these policies really look like and how they can apply and impact the lives of the students you're working with. So we've already had some conversation on vital records. Utah has led the way for a number of years in this space, but there are other states who are catching up as it relates to access to birth certificates and driver's licenses, as well as state IDs without a fee, as well as the all-important ability to have folks like yourselves and liaisons and other service providers support youth in obtaining those documents. As I mentioned, there is legislation moving across the country on minor access to care. So this is just ensuring that unaccompanied homeless youth in particular are able to access basic health care as well as mental health support, and also housing. So this is access to shelter, and this is also some states who allow contracting for housing, regular housing beyond shelter. We also see legislation in the K-12 supports space, and that can take a lot of different forms. This year in particular, that has really been in response to a lot of the uncertainty at the federal level and states looking at putting McKinney-Vento-like protections in their statutes. And we've already seen a couple of states, Washington and Oregon, pass legislation that actually puts McKinney-Vento into the state law in case there is something that happens at the federal level. And other states like Minnesota and Hawaii have also introduced laws around that. And then finally, higher education supports. As you can see here, that includes laws that provide homeless education liaisons like you all at the higher education level, as well as different financial supports and assistance for students going through college experiencing homelessness. Next slide gives you just a bit of a visual representation of what I just talked through. You can see that there's been activity all over the country in states ranging from coast to coast. And this is an example of what all the different bills that we are keeping an eye on, that we're tracking, that we're engaging in. As I mentioned, there's been a lot of activity on vital document access, as well as higher education supports and K-12 supports. If you click on the link at the bottom of this slide, you'll get to a page that goes through all the bills that we were tracking in the first quarter of the legislative session of the year. So there's dozens of bills that you can get more information on at that link. So let's talk specifically about Utah. There were a few bills that moved in this past legislative session that Mike had already referred to previously. Looking first at Senate Bill 103. And this is a bill that actually came about because of some conversations that we had with Senator Plum as it relates to current access for driver's licenses for youth experiencing homelessness. There was a law passed in 2024 that y'all might be familiar with that waived the fees for driver's licenses for students who are in the foster care system. Unfortunately, there was an oversight, and when that law was drafted, they unintentionally left out youth experiencing homelessness for that fee waiver. So this bill was introduced. It did move through the Senate pretty easily, but unfortunately they ran out of time and were not able to pass it in the House. Similarly, Senate Bill 224 also passed the Senate, but not the House. And you heard Nicole from Department of Health and Human Services refer to this a little bit earlier, that it would have actually allowed liaisons to obtain a birth record for students. And it's great to hear that they're working on they have some workarounds that they're putting forward to allow that to happen, but this would have actually put that into law. And again, unfortunately, did not pass. And then the third bill I'll raise up is a little bit different and gets to protections for students in high school who are experiencing homelessness, particularly around graduation and credit accrual and mobility. This bill did not actually have a committee hearing, though there was a lot of conversation about the bill both before and during the legislative session. And, while none of these bills actually passed, I think it's definitely true that they raised conversation, they raised awareness. And oftentimes what we see in state policy is that legislation takes a couple different cycles to actually pass. So though there wasn't success in passing these bills, there was still success in having them introduced. And we were excited to be part of the conversation around all of this legislation. So that brings me to you all and how you can engage, because what makes these legislative efforts successful is having folks like yourselves involved in the process, both to create and craft and improve these bills. And truly, you all as liaisons are the experts in this area. You're working with these students on a daily basis, and it may not surprise you, but most of the lawmakers and policymakers really have no sense of what these issues look like. They may have a broad sense of homelessness generally, but almost none of them really understand what homelessness looks like for students and families in Utah. So it's really important that you are part of those conversations. In addition, without your voices, there really just aren't that many people talking about this specific group of students and youth and children experiencing homelessness. So it's really necessary that you're part of that conversation. And we're glad to help support you all be part of those conversations. And it can really look a lot of different ways depending on what you're interested in and what you're comfortable with. We recognize that everybody is comfortable with engaging in different ways. So that could be meeting with legislators, that could be emails and phone calls, or it could be really digging into the language and being part of that process. I know that on some of the bills that I just talked through, that there was a meeting particularly related to graduation requirements that a number of liaisons were able to attend. So that's a great way to be part of it and to lend your expertise. Which brings me to this bottom point here on the slide. This is not lobbying. I want to just emphasize this. When you are educating and bringing your expertise to policymakers, you're not lobbying. So you're absolutely able to engage in this way. And once again, at Schoolhouse, we are more than glad to help support you and prepare you to do so. So please do reach out. I'll of course include my contact information in this slide deck. Please do reach out if you're interested in taking part in these processes in the coming months and years. So that was a lot on state policy. I want to pause here before we move on to the next section to see if anybody has any questions on what I covered, either as it relates to what's happening in other states, what happened in Utah this past legislative session, or ways for you to engage in these processes.
Thank you, Elliot. That was so helpful and really great information shared right there, important information. If you have a question, please, or a comment, please come off mute and direct them to Elliot. Thank you so much.
I just wanted to follow up on what Elliot was talking about with the policy piece, working with the legislators. When there is a bill, many of us were up there to testify. I did speak in support of some of that, but also working with your local legislators is super important as well. As Elliot said, they don't always know. And so if you have a relationship and have a conversation, even if it doesn't pass this year, we're just opening that dialogue and just helping them think about homelessness in a different way. It's not always the folks on the streets, right? We know it's these kids in doubled up situations and other kinds of things. And so it's helpful to let the legislators know and city council folks, whoever, right? That homelessness isn't always the same. And our McKinney-Vento kids need a lot of support. So just doubling down on that.
Awesome comment. Thank you, Mike. That's very, very helpful. And yeah, it is an important thing to do. And Elliot, I really appreciate you pointing out that it's not lobbying. I think so many of us keep hearing you can't lobby, don't lobby. So I think that was a key point to make sure that sharing your experiences and expertise is not considered lobbying.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you have questions about that and where the lines are drawn, happy to talk that through with you as well. Thank you for that, Mike and Robert. Well, I'll move on then to the next section. And, of course, what I talked about is a large part of what we do in state policy work as it relates to passing legislation, working with policymakers and educators and advocates to do so. But another part of our work that is important is looking at the implementation of these laws. So once a law has passed, is it actually being implemented effectively? And is it having the intended impact on the youth that it was intended to serve? So one of the areas that I've been looking at in states all across the country is this access to vital documents. And because Utah has had a law on the books for a number of years, I wanted to see how that was shaping up in Utah. And so I've been digging in a little bit more and again, excited that Nicole's presentation about the work that they're doing over as it relates to birth certificates. So some of this will be reinforcing that and we'll expand a little bit. But as you can see here, way back in 2019, House Bill 371 was passed. I want to emphasize again, this bill has been on the books for several years, and we're just kind of digging into improving that implementation now. So this is a great time to be engaging in this conversation. Really critically, prior to 2019, there was a waiver opportunity, but it was really focused on adults. And as you all know, homelessness for children and youth looks a lot different than it does for adults. And so in 2019, legislators added this definition, which includes doubled up, because it is the McKinney-Vento definition. In addition, to the ability for liaisons to actually support youth. And again, this is for birth certificates as well as IDs. I know we talked earlier about birth certificates. I'll focus a little more on IDs here. On here, you have access to the statutes. I encourage you to look at them directly. We're going to look now at the statute regarding IDs. This is very similar to what you saw earlier today on the statute for birth certificates. At the top, you can see here it indicates that a fee may not be charged for an individual experiencing homelessness. And then you can see, as defined in 42 USC section 11434A, that's McKinney-Vento. And so again, so important to have that specific language in here. I know there was a question about if somebody is doubled up, can you check a specific box on the form that Nicole was talking about earlier? Well, the statute said yes. You can absolutely indicate homelessness because it is in the law in Utah. That includes doubled up, which I think is really important. The work that we do in this implementation space really is a lot about raising awareness and making sure that you all who are working with the youth on a daily basis are able to be aware of what the law is, and that way you can go forward and advocate for these students that you're working with. And then, of course, in the bottom of the statute here on this slide, you can see that local education liaisons are able to verify that homelessness, which is, again, what Nicole was referring to. Unfortunately, the materials up to this point haven't necessarily represented that, but it's great to see that she and her team are working on that now. And that's part of what we're going to be trying to make sure happens on the driver's license division end as well. So again, everything that Nicole covered was really just based regarding the birth certificate access. We want to make sure that that same information update happens as it relates to state IDs. I know how important it is for the students you all are working with to have those state IDs. And so we're going to keep working to make sure that the driver's license division updates their materials as well. I linked here to a webpage maybe some of you have seen that kind of gives an overview of who's qualified for the fee waiver on their website. Unfortunately, it doesn't specifically mention youth as defined by McKinney-Vento as somebody who is able to get that waiver. So we're going to work to try and get that on that web page. There was also a question earlier about the service provider registrations. From my perspective, as the law states currently, liaisons should not need to be on that service provider registration page. The law indicates that you all are a separate group of people who can verify homelessness. So we're going to try and work to get that clarification with the driver's license division, and that they also utilize that new form that Nicole has been working on and provide some feedback there. And then the last piece I just wanted to raise that we're going to be working on is creating some sort of a resource for you all as liaisons to be using. So you have a good sense of how this process works, both for obtaining a state ID as well as the birth certificate. So kind of taking the materials and information that Nicole covered earlier and putting it into a really easy to use form and process for you all to do so. So here's another opportunity. I mentioned earlier the importance of having you all engage in state policy legislation wise, but it's also an opportunity for you to engage as it relates to implementation. And so if you're interested in kind of being part of the team that puts together this resource or providing feedback on the work that we do, I'd love to hear from you and have you involved in that. And also it may be helpful to have your voices as we're in conversations with the driver's license division, making sure that they understand what would be useful from the perspective of you all and the students that you work with. So please do reach out if you want to be part of the implementation conversation. And I recognize also that might be a more comfortable space for some people to be part of the conversation when it's not looking at creating new laws, but just making sure that the laws that are already in place are working as they are intended. So with all that, before I pass it on to Karen, I just want to pause one more time to see if anybody has any questions about the laws around access to vital documents. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and turn it over to my colleague. Yes, Karen, I see your note here. I will, as the other Karen is talking, I'll put a link to a PDF of our slides. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Karen Rice, who's going to walk through all the great supports and resources she and our K-12 team have for you all as liaisons.
Thank you so much, Elliot. And thank you everyone for the opportunity to be here with you all. As Elliot mentioned, my name is Karen Rice, and I am the Senior Manager of Education Initiatives at Schoolhouse Connection. So essentially that means I have the privilege and pleasure of working with homeless liaisons across the country, as well as state coordinators. So just to give you a little bit of context about me, I know sometimes when we talk about K-12 supports, it's helpful to know who the people are and their experience kind of behind that. So I have worked with McKinney-Vento. I figured out the other day it's been just about 20 years. And so I have done that both at the local level. I was a state coordinator prior to coming to Schoolhouse Connection. And now I have the opportunity to work across the country with folks. And so I am so happy to be able to share some of the ways that our K-12 team is able to support the great work that you all are doing. We are a small but mighty K-12 team at Schoolhouse Connection. So you may have seen information about our different webinars that we do, typically around back to school time. There's a whole slew of those that we are able to put out for you all. But I wanted to just let you know about some of the other resources. So if you've seen our webinars or if you've seen different things come out in our e-newsletters and things, sometimes it helps to have a little bit more context and to know what else is out there. Again, to support just all of the great work that you all do. So I wanted to offer first just some different tools for practical assistance. If you have ever reached out to us at Schoolhouse Connection on our website, we've got a contact form. My colleague and I are the ones that field all of those questions. So you might have seen my name come through your inbox that way. We are more than happy to be thought partners with you. I know you've got a state coordinator who is able to do that. And sometimes it's also helpful to hear what else is happening across the country in terms of strategies to do this, or what might another school district of similar size in a similar state be able to do this different thing or implement this different piece of the law. So we are more than happy to be thought partners in thinking through McKinney-Vento and thinking through kind of those strategies and best practices. So just a couple of quick resources for you here. If you have not seen our McKinney-Vento quick reference page, I want to just point that out. That is the best place to go for legal citations, information on the different requirements of the law, and really kind of that whole big picture of what does McKinney-Vento say. And then also this Q&A from the field. This is one of our most popular resources from our K-12 team. If you have a question about something McKinney-Vento related, chances are good someone else has had that question. So we take a lot of the questions that we get from the field and remove that identifying information and post those with the answers and the legal citations. We try to include strategies and best practices in those responses as well. So that is a really, really wonderful comprehensive place to find responses to questions. We get many very similar questions, and so it's a great tool to look up. You can search by different areas and different topics under McKinney-Vento, or sometimes I just search for, something in particular, a keyword that I'm looking for, and so you can find different things that way. I also wanted to just very quickly point out our newest resource on determining McKinney-Vento eligibility. This is one that we put together because we know that sometimes it's hard to know what questions do I ask? What am I looking for when I'm thinking about fixed, regular, and adequate? And so this guide will walk you through different ways to have some of those conversations, responses that you might hear from parents or youth or caregivers, and kind of what that looks like and breaking that down into fixed, regular, and adequate. So we hope that this will be a helpful tool as you're thinking about eligibility, maybe starting in a new school year in a few months, thinking through some of how those conversations might look. Also on this slide, we have a link to our flyers, our posters, our infographics. These are all tools that you can take and add your school district information and use to help build awareness and spread information around McKinney-Vento. So wanted you to have access to all of those. Please feel free to edit and use those as best meets your needs. And then our contact information. So that goes to our general Schoolhouse Connection inbox. And my colleagues on the K-12 team and I are the ones that often typically respond to those questions. So you're welcome to either contact me directly or to go through that way if you've got other questions as well. On the next slide, I included some information on the role of the liaison and some different resources. I know for those of you who may be new in your role, sometimes it's hard to know what are all the things that I should be doing and what resources exist in this space. So I won't go through every single one of these. This is a very long list, but want to just draw your attention to a handful of these. The first lays out all of those 10 duties that are required in the law. And so I think that's really helpful to be able to look at them in one place and say, these are the things that I'm responsible to make sure are happening. And then if you're new in your role, or even if you've been around McKinney-Vento for a long time, we took all of those 10 duties and broke them down into each one and provided resources and tools and legal citations for you in this new liaison resource hub. So even if you aren't a new liaison, this is a really, really great comprehensive place to find information. I use it all the time and we'll go and look at different things and pull up different tools and things that are on that webpage. So please feel free to check that out. And then one other that I will draw your attention to really quickly on this slide is this calendar of events. And this is a resource that's kind of buried in some of our other resources, but I think it's really one that can be helpful when you're thinking about how do I map out my school year in terms of what am I supposed to be doing as a liaison. And so this is broken down into all of the different months of the school year with different suggestions on identification, on awareness building, community partnerships, reaching out to families to check on housing statuses. And so I think it's a really great tool. It's one that I wish that I had had as a liaison that really helps you kind of conceptualize, okay, in September, these are our priorities. In October, this is what this might look like for me. Again, you're welcome to make a copy of that document and edit it to make sure that it meets the needs of what you're doing in your own LEA. But I think it's a really great place to start and really helps to kind of think about all of the different pieces of the law. We've got a number of other really great resources on this website, on this slide. So want to just encourage you to take a quick peek at some of these other tools, including our indicators of homelessness. If you have not ever checked that resource out, it is some really wonderful and comprehensive audio clips that really help build awareness in your school community on what homelessness looks like. So thinking about it through the lens of attendance and transportation and hygiene, and really helping staff to conceptualize this is something that might indicate a student is experiencing homelessness. So it's a great tool to really help think about homelessness through kind of some of those other behaviors and things that we see in our students. I'll let you check out the rest of those links on that slide as well, and we'll go on to the last one really quickly. Just wanted to take a minute to focus on unaccompanied homeless youth and what resources exist in this space. We are trying very hard and very strategically to talk about youth on their own when referring to unaccompanied homeless youth. So that's why you see that language on this page, but it is unaccompanied homeless youth that we are talking about. We have a really comprehensive webpage with a lot of great information. And I wanted to just draw your attention to a recorded webinar that we did last year. Last year, back to school time, hopefully we'll be able to do it again. One of the best things about this webinar is the liaison that joined us and the different strategies that she uses when identifying and supporting youth on their own in her LEA. So want to just say, if you're looking for some strategies and tools, hearing from that liaison in that webinar is really, really a great place to find some good information. We've got a whole section in our Q&A dedicated specifically to unaccompanied youth. It's listed as unaccompanied youth in that document, which is why I put that there. And then also wanted to just draw your attention to our higher education and FAFSA pages. So if you're working with youth on their own and you've got FAFSA questions or higher education questions, we have a lot of resources. Our higher education team is absolutely fantastic. And so if you have questions specifically related to higher ed or to FAFSA, you are welcome to reach out to me or put that in our contact form, and we can get you connected to the folks that have expertise in that area as well, if you're looking for some information for your students that you're working with. So that was really quick. A lot of resources for you. We've got a lot more on our website, but if there's something you're looking for, please don't hesitate to reach out. If you'd like a thought partner or really are looking for something specific in amongst all of these resources, I'm happy to help point you in the right direction and get you connected. And just want to say thank you so much for all the work that you do to support your students.
Awesome. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Elliot. Anybody have any questions or comments, feel free to unmute and direct your questions to either Karen or to Elliot.
I just want to say, as you know, I'm a big fan of Schoolhouse Connection. You all that.
Hello?
So their website just always has such amazing resources. And I've been doing this for a long time as well. But I continue to go there to remind myself of what I'm supposed to be doing. So I encourage you all as liaisons in the state to utilize this, because there's, again, a lot of really good free resources that are super helpful.
Great. Thank you, Mike. Any questions or comments? Let's see. The links in the presentation are great. Okay, perfect. Awesome. Glad the links are working. Thank you so much for sharing those. Karen and Elliot, thank you so much again for being here today and for your wonderful presentation. Appreciate all you guys do.
Yeah, and if I could just close quickly here, I wanted to raise up, as I mentioned earlier in the presentation, our scholarship program. We are currently accepting applications through June 2nd. And just to clarify, this is going to be for students who are currently juniors in high school. They'll be applying now, and then if they receive the scholarship, they'll of course get the financial award, but they're also going to get great one-on-one support through their senior year and as they transition and move through college. So encourage you to please pass this along to the students that you're working with. In the slide deck, you'll see our email address. Again, please do reach out to us. Also, ways to connect with us on social media, and we do have a community Slack channel, which is another great way to get your questions answered from other liaisons and those in the community across the country. And then one more plug for our newsletter, so you can really stay on top of everything that we're doing. So thank you again, Robert, for having us, and thank you all for sticking with us to the very end of your meeting today.
Thank you, Elliot, and thank you, Karen. Boy, you guys have so much great resources. I really enjoy meeting each month with Karen during Lunchtime Live. Let's see, is this deck going to be sent out? Yep. Let's see, Elliot, is there a way you can send it to me so I can send it into an email? It looks like the link isn't working after all.
Huh, yeah, okay. Happy to.
Awesome.
I'll send you the slides.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I appreciate both of you. Have a great day. Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Well, guys, thank you so much for sticking with me today. We got through a couple of tricky technical issues, but I thought it was a great meeting. Really want to thank Jen Harmer and Mike Harmon for all of their help. Becky Peters, thank you so much for carving out a huge portion of your day to help us with technical issues and the technical side of things. Just a reminder that funding could be delayed. If it is, I'll communicate everything as soon as I hear it. I always try to, the minute I hear anything, pass it forward to you. I haven't heard anything about McKinney-Vento recently, so please be aware that I will reach out to you. If you have questions or comments, please reach out to me. I'm happy to talk with you as well. Appreciate all your support, all your hard work. And with that, unless there's any other questions or comments from the group, thank you again for being here today. We'll send out the recording and all the slides from the presenters.